calling back. We're going to try to give her a call again, and then she just added another phone number to the 13-year-old grandson who's possibly with the daughter. Step out with this.
2412.
Veteran crisis hotline calling in, so they have a female veteran's off her medication. She's at work to safe haven. Attacking 12, take a check that one out.
6-1 bullet, 2-1 try to get shot.
Also still stands for time? No.
Offender in custody.
Thanks. Anyone else close by this result, let me know. First number. 10-4.
Pictures of is the domestic related? Another phone number to the 13-year-old grandson who's possibly with the daughter. Step out with this.
2412.
Veteran crisis hotline calling in, so they have a female veteran's off her medication. She's at work to safe haven. Detective 12, take a check that one out.
6-1 bullet, 2-1 try to get shot.
Also still stands for time? No.
Offender in custody.
Thanks. Anyone else close by this result, let me know.
3-3. Another supervisor now on the left.
Get that saxophone going. Get those memorials up on the screen for each case that we're talking about. Just showing something special. Good evening. Thank you all for hopping in. Appreciate you. And I can't wait to get in to what we are going to get into tonight. CC Moore made an appearance on Court TV. We always refer to the episode where she was on the Presumption podcast. But she's going to be on, or she was on, I should say, Court TV discussing the current hearings. So I can't wait to get into that, but we're going to get into some other stuff first. There's a new document. There's going to be a redacted transcript when it comes to the court hearing that was closed. Yoli wrote me a message. By the way, Yoli, you'll be joining us Thursday night, as we were supposed to dig deep into it this weekend. I was sick. So we're going to do that on Thursday night. So I can't wait to have Yoli again. And we're going to dig into those hearings together for you. But she said there's an order by the judge for the court reporter to prepare the transcript for the closed IGG hearing, and then the parties have 2 weeks to redact portions of the transcripts before it is available for release. She said the transcript won't be available for a while, and she don't know if you'll actually have to put in a request for the redacted transcript or if it will be posted on the docket. I was thinking it would probably be posted on the docket, but we'll see. So that was the document that just came out yesterday. I'll go ahead and flip to it here. And this is the document that came out yesterday regarding the transcript. So who knows? What's up, Yoli? Who knows what it'll show, but I don't know. I mean, this is my question, Yoli. It's going to be heavily redacted like crazy, ain't it? Because both sides, I don't know if, I guess I wouldn't say this. I guess maybe the defense might not redact that much because they want it to be out in the open. But wouldn't the prosecution redact a whole bunch of stuff and then it gets handed over? So I don't know. Maybe it's going to be heavily redacted. What do you guys think? We're also going to be getting into the topic of did the FBI violate his privacy? It seems like that's what I was thinking, but what do you think about this, Yoli? I think it's going to be so redacted that What gets her? Uh, no, what so I just feel like, the defense wants it out in the open. They don't even want that stuff sealed. Uh, but with the prosecution, they want all the stuff sealed. So uh I could see the prosecution really uh redacting it, all the words except for the, there, why. You know what I mean? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, I feel like they would probably like they would probably just redact the whole damn thing, right? It's gonna be a bunch of like, it'll be like 5 words on each page. The. It'll just be a bunch of the. Redacted. But who knows? I mean, who knows what we'll get? It's gonna be better than nothing because all we did is got what we got already, and that's nothing. We got in an interesting conversation. We're gonna be having a Joe Exotic true crime show on Friday. Me and Trey, we were actually doing the morning talk show over at the lounge this morning, and we got on the topic of Joe Exotic and Tiger King, and all of a sudden, as we started getting into it, we started realizing that there's some really messed up stuff going, like conspiracy and plots and audio confessions, perjury, all sorts of stuff. Like, whoa. So we're gonna read the transcript of the whole the trial there. I think 1,100 pages. Yeah. So yeah, we were just talking. We were just having fun this morning, at the lounge, and then all of a sudden we're like, "Holy hell!" What is it? What? We thought he was just asking for a pardon. Here we start looking into it, and all of a sudden it's like, "Holy crap!" So we got a show scheduled Friday night. Tiger King, True Crime. Definitely come check it out. Yeah, it's wild. It is wild. Go check it. You can see what we talked about at the second half of the show over at the lounge this morning. It's crazy, you guys. It is crazy. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think the FBI violated his privacy? You even have Ann Taylor talking about, the cast report, and it's basically what I can't wait to do this court hearing show on Thursday with Yoli, because oh my gosh, when I'm sitting there watching it and I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. I have like 7 pages of notes, but we gotta wait till Thursday. I want to make sure we have Yoli on. This crazy court hearings. Crazy court hearings. Especially Payne and Mowry. I don't remember. No training. What? How many have you done before? I don't know. What? I don't know. Crazy, man. It's crazy. Crazy. Judge asked her for... Well, yeah, he wasn't. This is the crazy thing, Katrina. In the very beginning, I have a video about it. I remember making a video about it. In the very beginning, there was somebody... Okay, so... I don't know if anybody even remembers this. Okay, so you know how the private driver was supposedly the neighbor that lived 1,200 feet away from Koberger. 1,200 footsteps, according to the article. Remember? 1,200 footsteps. I'm gonna look for the video because I don't have the article. I don't even know where that article would be, but I know I read it on a video. So I may not have the article now. It's been so long, but I know I have the video. But the neighbor or the private driver / neighbor only lived 1,200 footsteps away. And he called in a tip to law enforcement how he was BK's neighbor. He lived in this part over here. BK lived in this section. He lived right over here. Right? And he went on a couple walks with BK. And the first walk that he went on, he said that BK was telling him how he put his DNA into 23andMe, how he wanted to see, where his ancestors are and all this other stuff. But then you start looking into the private driver. The private driver never even lived in Pullman, never even lived at Steptoe Apartments, actually was married to somebody that worked at Moscow Police Department. So I don't know how the private driver ended up living, because according to him, his tip, he was a neighbor. It's just crazy. And then this story about, yes, called in a tip. And then this dude left the country. The guy that called in the tip and said, yes, I went on a couple walks with BK, and he told me on one of those walks that he put his DNA into 23andMe. And then after that guy called, he seemed really creepy. And then after that guy called in that tip, guess what he did? Shoot, he didn't even just leave the state. Dude left the country. He didn't just leave the state of Washington. He left the country. The guy that called in the tip. Who's to say? You know what? Just give me 1 second. It'll really only take me a second. I know it's in here somewhere. And you'll see the article. I was reading the article from the actual neighbor tip. I'm going to have to rewatch it. Hold on. Just give me a moment here. I know it's in here somewhere. There's so many. Yeah, right here. BK's neighbor contacted Ellie about a DNA test and wanted anonymity, then left the USA. Hold on. I don't know how. It can't be too long. There's the link. I don't even know when I made this. It was so long ago. Here. I gotta watch it now that I brought it up. Shoot. Let me see. So there's the link. Yeah, check this out. All right, so this is... All right, it's not bad. It's 18 minutes. Not bad. We got a few hours to hang out anyway. Let me share this with you guys real quick. This was March 7th. Not too far away. All right, here we go. Is she girl? this is an article I was talking about a little bit ago. When it came to the January 17th, 2023, and it was an interesting article. Koberger told neighbor a prior DNA test, raising questions about how police found him. Pullman, Brian Koberger told a fellow Washington State University graduate living in the same on campus housing complex that he submitted his DNA for consumer genetic testing to explore his ancestry. The neighbor told the Idaho Statesman Koberger, 28, was a PhD student in WSU's Criminal Justice and Criminology Department. He now stands charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and felony burglary in the killing of 4 University Idaho students on November 13th. Koberger's neighbor
What's up, Amy?
said the two became acquainted while crossing paths on the residential property a handful of times after they each moved there in August. The WSU PhD student lives across from the apartment where Koberger resided until recently, and he said the two traded cell phone numbers. 1,200 feet, right? This person lives 1,200 feet from Koberger, not Eric. And they even exchanged cell phone numbers. In their longest interaction on the first Friday night of the fall semester, they spent about an hour chatting, the man said. The statesman agreed to grant him anonymity over privacy concerns to publish his accounts of his exchanges with Koberger, including that conversation months before Koberger was arrested. What? The statesman agreed to grant him anonymity over privacy concerns to publish his account of his exchanges with Koberger, including that conversation, and it says months before Koberger was arrested? Why would you approach the statesman saying a fellow Washington State
Right? Months before he was arrested. Come on.
University student Koberger had submitted his DNA for consumer genetic testing? Before Koberger was arrested, you wanted anonymity. The August evening, the two grad students ran into each other in the large housing complex's parking lot next to their buildings. The man said during an interview at his apartment. Koberger was then asked him if he wanted to walk and talk, and he said the two got to know each other a little while taking laps around the asphalt parking area. During their conversation, Koberger asked his neighbor, who is not from the U.S., whether he could identify Koberger's ancestral background. The man said the neighbor said he guessed Italy before Koberger stated that he was of German descent. This was from the Columbian on 117, but it said that this person wanted anonymity months before Koberger was arrested, but the Koberger was only arrested a month and a half after the crime took place. So, I'm suspicious already, all up and down, right? He talked about his ancestors. The 30-year-old neighbor said he had some sort of DNA test. I don't know how he got to that point. It was just interesting to him. The detail could shed new light on growing reports that investigators use public genealogy databases to land on Koberger as the alleged killer, citing law enforcement sources. Multiple news outlets, including Fox News, CNN, and ABC News, reported as early as the day after Koberger's arrest that police employed the forensic technique to narrow their focus to Koberger while making no mention of the contentious method in the probable cause affidavit used to justify taking him into custody. A single source of male DNA was recovered from the button snap on a K-Bar brand leather knife sheath found on the bed next to the body of one of the 4 victims, police said. Police later matched the DNA from trash discarded at the Koberger's home in eastern Pennsylvania, where Brian Koberger was visiting his family for the winter break, to the profile taken from the knife sheath, according to the affidavit. However, investigators didn't home in on Koberger and seek a search warrant for his cell phone data until after the investigative genetic genealogy IGG results came back identifying him, a law enforcement source with knowledge of the investigation told Slate. Police said they first became aware of Koberger on November 29th when a WSU police officer researched white Hyundai Elantras at the university while seeking information about such vehicles related to the crime, according to the affidavit. About a half hour later, another WSU officer located Koberger's vehicle parked outside his on campus apartment, police said. No, that was Moscow. Law enforcement obtained search warrants for records of cell phones that use cell towers close to the area of the King Road home in Moscow where the victims were killed as part of this investigation, the affidavit read, without providing a date. Based on evidence, police believe the homicides occurred between 4 and 4:25, but Koberger's phone did not register in the area between 3 and 5 a.m. On December 23rd, investigators obtained another search warrant for expanded records of Koberger's cell phone dating to when police said he opened the account with AT&T on June 23rd, 2022. The affidavit read the record showed him in the vicinity of his WSU apartment at 2:42 a.m. and appearing to leave the area 5 minutes later, with his phone not reporting to the network again until 4:48 a.m. south of Moscow along US 95 near Blaine, Idaho, and north of Genesee. Further review of records showed Koberger's cell phone in the area of the King Road home from 9:12 a.m. to 9:21 a.m. on November 13th. Police said, in addition, his cell phone appeared to be in the same area at least a dozen times prior to that date, according to the affidavit. And I'm going to add something to this article, too. His phone was also hitting the towers on November 14th, but they also said that they don't believe that he was in the vicinity at the time. So, okay. Do you remember that from Brett Payne's Exhibit A? It says they also have him pinging on the 14th, but they don't believe that he was there. It says it in Brett Payne's Exhibit A, PCA. You can check it. Okay. You should include that too. A very serious person, Koberger's neighbor told the Statesman that he was back in his home, believed that he was in the vicinity at the time. So, okay, you should include that too. A very serious person, Koberger's neighbor told the Statesman that he was back in his home nation for WSU's winter break when he heard police arrested a suspect at the Moscow case. I wonder, dude, I wonder what nation you went to, and I wonder if they don't have an extradition law when it comes to, you know what I mean? What home nation did you go to? I bet you it's one that doesn't have extradition. Sitting there putting a tip like that in the vet. Yeah, this guy said that he did his DNA and he's got a white car. Whoa. Who's 1,200 feet? This guy was 1,200 feet. And then he jumped ship back to his home nation for the winter break. Wow. A friend posted in a group WhatsApp thread. He said nothing, noting that the person lived in the man's housing complex. He said he immediately searched for more information on Google and saw that Koberger was a person accused in the deaths of the U of I seniors Madison Mogan and Kaylee Gonsalves, junior Zayna Knordle, and freshman Ethan Chapin. It's shocking, the man said, still seeing his picture on the news. It's very shocking. So this is after that initial interview. He says he thought back to Koberger owning a white Hyundai Elantra. So you didn't even tell him that he owned a car. You just approached them and said, "Hey, this guy sent in his DNA." Whoa, dude. And you wanted to have anonymity, and this was before Koberger even became a suspect.
Thank you, Heather.
And
Isn't
you're
this
going to
crazy?
the frickin' Idaho Statesman saying, "Hey, I got this tip. This guy submitted his DNA for genetic testing." Whoa. And then you jump ship to your home country, bro? He thought back to Koberger owning a white Hyundai Elantra that he parked in the lot where they walked together several months earlier. Moscow police were seeking information about anyone driving such a vehicle after they obtained video from the early morning hours of November 13th that showed a white sedan in the area of King Road homicides. The last time he saw Koberger, the man said, was either the last week of November or first week of December, 2 or 3 weeks after the incident, roughly 9 miles away, which quickly drew national attention to the region. The neighbors said they greeted each other in passing, and he didn't notice or remember anything different about Koberger from that short interaction. But you guys exchanged cell phone numbers. You guys had an hour-long conversation. Excuse me. You guys had an hour-long conversation before he was even arrested. And then a couple weeks after, you're recalling about the white car, and you're recalling that, okay, after the crime, we just had a short interaction. But you exchanged cell phone numbers. But you told that a long time ago, don't tell him who I am, but this guy, he submitted his DNA to find out his ancestry. He jogged his memory with the Statesman on Sunday, recalling his walk with Koberger in August. So this was in August, see? This was in August when they had this talk for an hour long.
August.
And
what?
you went to the Idaho Statesman before he was even arrested and said, "I don't want you to use my name." And then you go to your home country during the break, right when they told all the students to go home. He jogged his memory, recalling his walk with Koberger in August. What he said was his only substantive conversation with his neighbor. Their other exchanges entailed the two students just saying hello and Koberger suggesting they go on a hike together sometime. As they strolled the complex's parking lot at the end of the fall semester's first week of classes, they talked over the sounds in the area of the college students socializing. He said, "Many people here were partying, and you could hear it all over the city," the neighbor said. He was not into partying. He said they're wasting their time. Something wasting their time. That sounds like an incel comment to me. Don't it? Don't it? Does that not sound like an incel? Many people here were partying, and you could hear it all over the city. He said he was not into partying. He said they're wasting their time. That's an incel comment, yo. And this dude wanted anonymity months before and then bolted to his home country when they sent all the students home. Get the F out of here. I'm glad we talked about this and because I totally forgot about it. Thank you, Katrina. Made me think about, oh, yeah, that's right. There was this neighbor. I'm glad we're going back and look because you know what? After this was from 2024 March. Man, it's so much crazier now, ain't it? It's so much crazier now. Many people here were partying and you could hear it all over. He said, I'm not into partying. They're wasting their time. Koberger shared with him that he ate only one meal per day. The man said Koberger is vegan and had requested his meals in jail be in accordance with his preferred diet. News Nation reported over the course of Koberger and his neighbor's conversation, which included discussions of their areas of research in separate WSU doctoral programs. The man said he couldn't recall Koberger ever smiling or laughing. He was kind of serious, a very serious person, the neighbor said. Then why in the hell did you give him your fucking phone number, dude?
What's up, Nina?
Investigators also appear interested in the man's recollections of Koberger. Detectives with the Moscow Police Department last week contacted him about their relationship, he said, after they found his cell phone number in Koberger's phone. Just how we met each other, what was his personality, these kind of things, he told the statesman, declining to offer more specifics, citing the nature of the situation and law enforcement's involvement. Moscow Police Captain Anthony Dollinger, spokesperson for.
Oh gosh, remember when I called that? When I said that Dollinger was going to be chief way back before? Oh, isn't it funny how things come to fruition after so much time goes by, right? I want to hear that again because this is before the promotion when I had already called the promotion.
Specific, citing the nature of the situation and law enforcement's involvement.
My little mistake. Moscow Police Chief. Captain.
Moscow Chief Anthony Dollinger. Moscow Police Captain Anthony Dollinger,
Oh, I love it.
for the department,
Oh, I love it.
would not confirm to the statesman that the investigators contacted and interviewed the neighbor, citing a gag order in the case. Latah County Judge Megan Marshall issued the non-dissemination order on January 3rd, barring law enforcement and attorneys from making statements outside of submitted court records. The neighbor also said he provided police with a screenshot of his and Koberger's brief text thread, which included just two messages, starting off with the man confirming his number to Koberger after their August 26th walk. The screenshot reviewed by the statesman included a phone number with an Eastern Washington area code with the last four digits 8458 in the affidavit. They refer to those same phone numbers. You're telling me that the police relied on screenshots? They didn't take his phone? Send us some screenshots? You're not going to take the dude's phone?
See, like, send us screenshots. Those will be okay. Don't take the 12 minutes to drive over, or we won't take the 12 minutes to drive over. Just send us the screenshots. Oh, my Lord.
Hey, neighbor, how was your semester so far? A text dated September 21st that appeared to be from Koberger read. The neighbor said he was too busy to reply at the time and then later forgot the two didn't text again, he said. He even reached out, hey, how's your semester so far? Wow. Oh, what the fuck? The neighbor said he didn't return to Pullman until after investigators performed a search of Koberger's apartment on December 30th. A Whitman County Superior Court judge sealed those search warrants until March 1st, citing threats to the public and law enforcement and maintaining the integrity of the investigation. Other neighbors recall night owl mention of homicides on Sunday when a statesman reported visitor Koberger's apartment building. Nearby tenants were mostly reluctant to answer questions. The resident directly below Koberger's second story unit had a sign taped to the front door, no interviews, thank you. Several other neighbors declined statesman's request to speak about Koberger or said they didn't know him. Just what Ann Taylor's running into. Angela Alvarez, the WSU senior psychology major, lives with her family in the other first floor unit in Koberger's building, but said she was unavailable to talk. She had previously told the Daily Beast that Koberger was a night owl who generally kept to himself. He was frequently gone, Alvarez said, and she'd rarely see him before midnight. He would usually park his white Elantra right in front of her unit, she said. I always see his headlights flash in front of my windows. The parking space was one of the few vacant in front of the building. He brought it up in conversation, asked if I'd heard about the murders, which I did, the man said, and then he said, it seems like they have no leads. It seems like it was a crime of passion. Why in the hell were you going to them, letting them know about this DNA test?
Way before.
What's the point of that?
Way before the crime. This was an article from the Idaho Statesman, Kevin Fixler, January 17th, 2023 at 5:25 p.m. Koberger told neighbor of prior DNA test, raising questions about how police found him. And yes, it was the neighbor. The neighbor that lived 1,200 feet away. The neighbor that jumped ship when everybody got sent home the next day. The neighbor that jumped ship to his own home country. His own home country. That neighbor. Remember, the neighbor that was 1,200 feet away was also supposed to be the neighbor that was the private driver? It's a crazy article. So there's the information. I'm sure it's still up. I would have to, this is, I mean, you're talking so many files ago. It would take me a little while to find it. But I remembered having the video of reading the article. It's crazy. It's crazy. Dude wanted anonymity and thinks that people who party are just wasting their time, like just mad. And this is the guy. No, it's only one me. Oh, she must be delayed. It's crazy. All right. Let me see here. We went through the transcript. Speaking of Kevin Fixler, he's awesome. We're going to switch to an article from him real quick. And then you got John Cena with garbage bags. Hefty. Koberger's Idaho attorneys argue FBI skirted policies. They want DNA evidence dropped. And we're going to be watching that episode with Cece Moore as well. It says, police investigating the Moscow College student homicides did not obtain search warrants in their handling of DNA from the crime scene. We showed you, here's a video you can check out, the DNA dirty gloves, where it shows people that were handling the items inside the house, also taking photos. You can see how there was already contamination before they even walked in that house. And there's the video proof of it right there. DNA dirty gloves. You can see the people outside creating contamination. You can also see them inside. We show you both videos, outside and inside the crime scene. And you can see, yeah. When you see what took place outside, you see how they brought it inside, and then you see who did what inside. You want to talk? Listen, there's a lot of conversation about this blood drop on a handrail, right? They never specified what handrail. That handrail can be the handrail going upstairs. It could be the handrail going downstairs. And guess who? Guess who was over by the handrail that went downstairs? The lady in the black jacket. Guess who was by the handrail as they were going upstairs? The lady with the ponytail. Yeah, the blonde, Amy. Yes. Yes. The blonde with the ponytail. I'm telling you guys got to hit that link, save it for a playlist. Come on back. Because this right here, if this doesn't show reasonable doubt, I've been saying it since we came across the drone footage. If this don't show reasonable doubt when it comes to contamination on top, because remember, they're going to see photos of the crime scene. The jury is going to see photos of the crime scene. They're going to see how many footsteps are going all over the place from all the people that were there before EMS showed up and before law enforcement showed up. Because remember, when law enforcement showed up, Lanier said he was driving up to the scene, and he, before he even got out of his car, realized that they wouldn't be able to handle the situation, automatically called Idaho State Police. People all over the place. So you already have reasonable doubt contamination right there. Then you mix it with this. Then you have other male DNA that's unknown as well in key places that isn't excluded. How many people you sent home? Whatever else while outside of the crime scene. All right. It says police investigating the college student homicides did not obtain search warrants in their handling of DNA from the crime scene. The critical and perhaps only piece of evidence that ties suspect Brian Koberger to the victims and efforts to block it from his trial hinge on the novel argument that they were legally required. Is it really? All right, hold on. We're just going to play the audio.
Koberger's Idaho attorneys argue FBI skirted policies. They want DNA evidence dropped. Police investigating the Moscow College student homicides did not obtain search warrants in their handling of DNA from the crime scene, the critical, and perhaps only, piece of evidence that ties suspect Brian Koberger to the victims, and efforts to block it from his trial hinge on the novel argument they were legally required. The FBI also ignored internal federal policy in pursuit of the alleged killer when its agents submitted the DNA to a pair of public ancestry databases that law enforcement is restricted from accessing. It was revealed at a court hearing Thursday. That amounted to nothing more than a breach of private terms of service, prosecutors rebutted, even as the defense alleged constitutional rights violations over the advanced technique known as investigative genetic genealogy, or IGG, that first put Koberger on police's radar. Yes, IGG was used in this case, and, yes, it did point to the defendant, Deputy Attorney General Jeff Nye said Thursday for the prosecution. But the fact that that happened doesn't mean that there was a violation of the Fourth Amendment, which protects against unreasonable searches and seizures.
Sponsor message, then we're back.
Jackpot spinning soon. Mark.
All right, listen, I can't read it. I can't listen to it. Forget about it. And here, if you want that link about the neighbor, here's the link again for that neighbor. Typically, if you want that link, there's that link about that neighbor. It goes through the article, and then Again, it's January 17th, 2023, 5:25 p.m. Kevin Fixler, Fixler, Idaho statesman. Title is Koberger told neighbor of prior DNA test, raising questions about how police found him. All right, we're going to go to something else when it comes to this. I thought I was going to be able to read that article. Hold on. All right, let's go to Court TV instead.
There is an expectation of privacy in one's DNA that society is willing to recognize.
No
And
problem.
I think I'd talked to the court a little bit about the things that happened in this case that were super secret. I think we'd gotten to the point where we were talking, and this goes to recognizing an expectation of privacy when there's all of this secrecy surrounding it. We had gotten to the FBI where the SNP profile was twice as big as that from Othram. And then the FBI went into databases that violate the Department of Justice interim policy. You heard a lot about that Department of Justice interim policy, and that policy it's on page 6 of that particular exhibit that the court has. It says that they're not to go into databases that aren't allowed. And they did that. The court has that in another exhibit.
Right. Remember when we had Yoli on? Yoli, if you're still in chat, I know you can attest to this. We had Yoli on. Gosh, I can't even remember. It was so long ago when we discussed this. Yoli actually had to go into her setting. I think it was 23andMe too. She actually had to go into a setting to then switch it to where they couldn't do that. So yeah, that's part of the security that certain DNA ancestry companies like to use for people's comfort. Some don't, some do. And she's claiming that the one that was used, yes, an opt-out, thank you, typically. She's claiming the one that was used, they didn't let them know, because if you are using one of those companies that requires that the law enforcement legally has to let that company know this is part of an investigation, this is for an investigation. They have to. And if it's a person that they're not allowed to do that, then they're not allowed to. So she's saying, look, because remember, isn't it crazy how we just did that other video about the neighbor talking about the DNA test or the DNA ancestry thing? Boom. So it's that they didn't say anything. According to Ann Taylor, they didn't say anything. They didn't say, hey, we're law enforcement. They just did it. So that's why I asked, do you guys think that his privacy was violated? Would your privacy be violated? I mean, this is a very good question, and I'm waiting on this next doc drop. Oops, excuse me. I'm waiting on this next doc drop. I'm waiting on this next court hearing, something. Whatever. Doc drop. Another court hearing. I don't know. But it's funny how when you see Maury in pain, and that's why I was sitting there these last two court hearings going, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm hearing this. 7 pages of notes. What's up, Moonlight? 7 pages of notes. I'm sitting here going, I don't remember. I don't recall. I don't know how many times I did this in a previous. I'm just like, whoa. You think that you would literally, you know what I'm saying? If you're a lead, then you got Maori coming up after Payne talking about, well, I'm kind of a lead too. I'm kind of a lead too. And both of them are up there. Both of them should have been prepared. Both of them should have went over their stuff, even their own accolades, because at least Maori could answer one of the questions when, how many times he had used a warrant for this or something, and he mentioned 3 times. It's like, thank you. Somebody mentioned a number now. Payne couldn't answer not one. I don't recall. I don't remember. I'm not sure. Oh, well, we offered that information to everybody. I mean, it was like, what? You're the frickin' lead, man. And this is about the justice for these 4 victims. Number 1. And you show up as law enforcement, you show up to testify at a court hearing, and you ain't prepared? You ain't even prepared for these 4 beautiful children that had a horrific crime committed on them, and you ain't even prepared in a frickin' court hearing, bro. This is a preseason game. It's not the finals. This is a preseason game. And you come to a preseason game not even prepared. I can't wait to go into it on Thursday night, you guys. There's already a notification out. Yoli's coming on. Whew. I got so much to say. Amy, I got so much to say. I've been holding it in since Friday. I got so much to say about these court hearings. Trust me, because we've been there since day 1 too. We've seen it all. We've seen this come by and this go by, and this happen and this get held back and this get revealed and all this. You know that. I got so much to say on Thursday. Shout out Yoli. She'll be joining me on Thursday. I'm sure she's got a lot to say too. It's going to be a hell of a show.
But how's that a constitutional violation?
Your Honor, it goes to privacy.
Don't suppress for contractual violations or even statutory violations.
I'm not suggesting that we do that. I'm suggesting that that's information that's pertinent to this court in making a very important decision as to whether somebody's Fourth Amendment rights were violated, as well as Article 1, Section 17 of the Idaho Constitution. The purpose of offering that information is because there's a policy, so there's there's a recognized expectation of privacy in what's contained in a SNP. In a SNP at all, there has to be a warrant to search these types of things, and there wasn't. There would be no need to have any policy if nobody cared about this. The court heard about the different IGG databases that changed their rules in terms of use after a different case used IGG to solve it because people don't expect to have their DNA searched.
That was the point of my question about whether or not Mr. Kohlberger's DNA was in any of those databases. In other words, did he submit his DNA and said, I don't want law enforcement to look at it?
Your Honor, I don't think that that's the way the question should be looked at. I think the question should be looked at in the way that we always look at warrantless searches.
Got to be a standard.
Now, that's an interesting part, too. Because, just like I brought up Yoli's situation, she didn't even realize she does not answer the question because she couldn't, typically. What's up, Audrey? she couldn't answer the question because if she answered the question, listen, if he opted out, this is why I brought up Yoli's situation, right? Yoli came on the show. We were talking about the 23andMe a long time ago, and she was like, I didn't even know that there's an option for that. And so she researched it and found out how to get to it and then actually did the opt out thing, right? So it's one of those things where they don't put it, it's not like one of those setting features that's on the first page. Right? It's like Detective said, it's in the fine print. You gotta find how to get there and then be able to do it, right? So it makes me think when she answered the question this way, it makes me think that yep, that's true. Yeah, it's so when she answered that question, what's up, Miss Your Girl? When she answered that question, that's when I'm like, I think he was in the same position that Yoli was in, right? Shoot, I didn't know. Because now, listen, maybe it's a chess move. I didn't go to law school, okay? I wish I could have. But maybe it's a chess move. Let's ask, she can't. Yoli, when you get a chance, let me know what you think about her not answering this question, because I honestly feel she didn't answer the question because BK was in the same situation that you were in, Yoli, where you didn't know. I would think that if she answered the question, I would think it would be, no, he didn't opt out. Right? If the judge is well, did your client opt out? That's not how we should look at the question, Judge. I don't know. That tells me that he didn't opt out. He was in the same situation as Yoli was in. Didn't know. Listen to this again one more time.
Did he submit his DNA and said, I don't want the point of my question about whether or not Mr. Kohlberger's DNA was in any of those databases. In other words, did he submit his DNA and said, I don't want law enforcement to look at it?
Your Honor, I don't think that that's the way the question should be looked at. I think the question should be looked at in the way that we always look at warrantless searches.
It's got to be a standard.
So she does have a response. It is a good, it's a warrantless search. When we're listening to these court hearings, I don't want to talk too much about it because I have so much to say and I got to save it. But when you're talking about searches and you do non-warrant, where's my notes? Because I couldn't believe I heard this. Hold on. The fact that the Exhibit A was a living document that anybody could update, that's crazy. I don't know. There's so many notes. I don't want to stall. But basically it was saying that they use tactics that you need a warrant to then get the warrants. Jacqueline, she's ready to drop some bombs. Okay, so let me, I gotta ask you. So let me know in chat. Okay, so based off of how she answered this question, because look, she went, Judge, that's oh shoot. I got I'm thinking. How do I answer this? Do you okay, I'll ask you guys. No. We already know he has it in the database. That's why. So when we went through that article a second ago, the neighbor called in the tip. Okay, the neighbor called in the tip to the cop saying, I had a conversation with BK and he turned his DNA into Ancestry 23andMe. Right? So his DNA is already in there. Unless the guy was lying. Because who says the roommates or not the roommate, the neighbor was telling the truth? Do I think his DNA is there? I do. Because I don't the neighbor could have said anything else, honestly. For him to come up and have a story, for him to come out and have a story about, yeah, he told me that he put his DNA in 23andMe. I really think he did. But this is what what the judge is asking is not if the DNA is in any of the systems. The judge is asking if he opted out of that, because Ann Taylor is bringing up the point it's an illegal search because they connected his dad's DNA to my client based off of an illegal search of my client's DNA. You see? Because remember, when they said they got the dad's DNA, they got the hit. What did that mean? They put the dad's DNA into the 23andMe, and they weren't supposed to be able to get to Kohberger's DNA profile to get a match unless Kohberger didn't opt out. So when that's what Ann Taylor's saying here. Right? They used dad's DNA to get a profile match to my client based off of an avenue that is not legal if my client opted out of it. But she didn't say her client opted out of it. She didn't answer the question. The judge asked, did he opt out? And she, well, Judge, that's not, which the response is right. It's not about if he opted out or not. It's about it was an illegal search if he opted out. So they're both. She could have easily answered the question. Do you see what I'm saying? So when he's asking her that question, she knows, and I think the judge knows also, it's not about if he opted out. I think both of them know. Look, they're in law. They would know this already. This is like law 101 when it comes to an illegal search, right? It's law 101. They both know this already. They both know. So when he asks her the question, and he already knows it's not about if he did it or not, it's about it's illegal, but he's also saying, look, it's not an illegal search if he didn't opt out. Because that's how they found the SK in California. What was the Golden State killer? Something like that, right? Is that who it was? That's how they found him. So when she doesn't answer the question, when they both know already it's about the illegal search, but he's just saying, well, did he opt out or not? Because she's arguing like he opted out, right? If you listen to what she's saying, she brings up the SK in California, how the DNA helped solve an investigation because, dude, there was no opt-out. She says because of that investigation being solved, it changed how these other companies allow their data to be used in the investigations like this. That's where they came up with the opt-out, because of their customers' security. So she's arguing this point as if he opted out. So it's very interesting to me when they both know it's not about if he opted out or not. It's about an illegal search, which she answers because it's correct. It's not about if he opted out or not. It's about this. But what she's arguing is though he opted out. But is it an illegal search to be arguing for if he didn't opt out? So if he didn't opt out, and it's not an argument to be arguing in front of the judge, well, then why is it being argued? So then if the judge is asking you, did he opt out or not, your response shouldn't have been, well, judge, it's not about that. Yeah. But did he opt out? Because you're talking to me like he opted out. If he didn't opt out, you wouldn't bring up how the DNA programs led to a crime being solved, how it changed the other companies, how they share their information, how it would be illegal because, you know, she even brings it up, how they're not allowed to be able to with opt-outs and whatever. It's being argued that way. I don't understand why that was the answer, because it was almost like, yes, the sky is blue. Okay. Like, did he opt out, right? That crazy part right there. I don't know. Type 1 in chat if you think he opted out. Type 2 in chat if you think he didn't opt out. I'm thinking maybe he ran into the situation like Yoli that we discussed a long time ago, where she was like, I didn't even know that you could opt out. I don't know. I think it's number 2. And I think that's why she answered it the way she did, because I really don't think he opted out. And I think if he would have opted out, because she's arguing for the opt-out argument, illegal search, but I would think she would have said, yes, judge. Right? Because would the judge, don't you think the judge would have said, shut the cameras off so I can ask this question? If it wasn't going to be able to be put out to the public, I think the judge would have said, camera crew, stop, put it on pause for a second. I want to ask Miss Taylor a question. All right, Miss Taylor, did he opt out? You see what I'm saying? Like you look at all the surrounding things going on at the same moment that this question's being asked, and it's like, yeah, you can't. So then this is where why would the judge, if she couldn't answer that question because that information can't be put out there before the trial, why would the judge why wouldn't the judge, because they would both know there's discovery on both sides, okay? The prosecution would know if Koberger opted out or not. Why wouldn't the judge, like I said, be like, all right, court camera crew, put it on pause for a minute. I need to ask Miss Taylor a question. I'll let you know when we can resume. Goes to Miss Taylor. Miss Taylor, did he opt out? I don't know. It's crazy.
Your Honor, we're here because the state has alleged that a single piece of evidence ties Mr. Koberger to this case. They've alleged that there's a knife sheath that has DNA that they allege matches Brian Koberger. He's now been incarcerated for 2 years, facing capital murder. I'm not sure, unless we're shifting the burden to me, what else I can say.
Well, you have a burden of showing that the items ought to be suppressed.
This is a warrantless search. There's no justification for this search.
Right. Assuming a warrant is required for this type of inquiry.
Well, Your Honor, we think it is. And we think it is based on case law, third-party doctrine case law. That's Carpenter. Thinking about cell phones, that's the Riley case. If you have a cell phone that gets taken at an arrest out of a car, a subsequent warrant to search the cell phone is required. So we think a warrant was required for these subsequent searches. And there was no warrant in this case. There's an expectation of privacy.
I struggle with...
Yo, okay, look at, okay, I gotta pause it here for a second. Look at how different BK looks. Look at how different BK looks. What's that? Hold on a second. He looks like a younger version of this guy. Oh my gosh, he's a major broadcaster. He does oh my gosh, he's got gray hair. He's got like a super skinny face. No, I don't think it's a hunger strike typically. I think it's just the diet. Man, he looked, remember when he first started coming into court? You know, he had the, you know, some chunk to him. I mean, look at his cheeks in the picture above me. Look at his face now. Like, look at his shoulders, and he's got to be skin and bones, man. He's got to be skin and bones. I mean, he's doing the vegan stuff. I can't, you know, when they talk about prison food already, they tell you how crappy it is. And then you're on a vegan diet. I can imagine what kind of vegan prison food you get. The vegan prison food can't have a lot of nutrients. The vegan meals? Dude, we watched a show on what they use for freaking prison food, bro. Yikes. That's why they cook their own shit. I can't imagine the vegan. That's like, you know, because it all comes from a manufacturing company that mass produces the food, so it goes there. The I can imagine like the section that makes the vegan part of it is probably like a small fucking room in the factory. It's probably not very big. Confidential informant, in my opinion, is the DNA. The Poppy, BK's dad. They don't want, I mean, they already let people know in the PCA Exhibit A, but I don't know. What do you guys think? I've always felt the confidential informant was the DNA. The person's profile of the DNA that they, when it comes to in the court system, they put it out in the exhibit, but I don't think they want his DNA profile out to the public because they would be able to see. They would be able to see the markers of BK's dad, you know. There's his profile. Yeah, BK's dad. Yeah. Yeah, right, Audrey? Exactly. BK's dad's DNA snitched. Yeah, that's just what I've always felt from the beginning was Dada's DNA profile. The snitch.
I struggle with
look at how skinny he is.
Well, I struggle, to be frank, and where you're going to have to try to convince me, I guess, is I struggle with the idea that DNA left at a crime scene, that there's any expectation of privacy by someone who leaves DNA at a crime scene, that DNA can't be, as you say, searched without a warrant to establish identity.
Well, Your Honor, I don't think any of us can go out of our houses without leaving DNA all over the place.
Not go to a crime scene.
The question of how something gets somewhere, that's the subject of the trial. I think the Carpenter case is really instructive for the court here, and that case was about, it was about third party with cell towers. And there was a concurring opinion in that case. I think that's instructive. We leave DNA everywhere. If you carry a cell phone and it uses the towers, there can be a trail of where you went.
Everywhere?
I'm sorry?
Don't we leave fingerprints everywhere?
We do leave fingerprints everywhere, but I would say, Your Honor, that things like your movements, cell towers, the contents of your cell phone, those are really personal things. That's how you carry out your business. That's how you go. You drive your car to go to the doctor. Your cell phone's heading on those towers. DNA is even more personal than that. The tests are so different than they used to be now. It can pick up all kinds of information. It takes very little DNA. DNA lives on surfaces a lot longer than fingerprints live on surfaces. So without more, they're not much of an indication of anything. There's a warrant requirement to protect people from unreasonable searches. And that's what we're asserting here. There's so much information contained in your DNA, and you can't stop from shedding that when you go out of your house. None of us can. To be able to have that searched without a warrant could put anybody in jeopardy. There's no privacy left if that's going to be the standard. You put it in public so it can be searched. That can't be the standard. That would erode the Fourth Amendment. Our position is that there is an expectation of privacy that society is willing to accept. Our position is that there's case law that supports this. Maybe not exactly directly on point, but the court talked about one of the cases that we cited that's similar. It's out of Washington. In that case, it keyed on whether the database was a voluntary, law enforcement can search this or not. In this situation, that's not the case. You know from the exhibit you have and from the testimony that you heard that the FBI went into 2 databases that they weren't permitted to search. So if the court wants to go clear to that extreme, and the court shouldn't, The court should look at the Fourth Amendment. The court should look at expectation of privacy. The court should look at the 3 places there was a warrant required and it wasn't given. But if the court wants to go all the way down to whether or not there was a database searched where the people consented to have their DNA searched, our case is different. The FBI went into 2 other databases and searched those. There was nothing else happening until that happened. And it's instructive, I think, and important for the court to think about how secretive this all was. We are months from trial, and we are learning things about how the government identified Brian today in open court when we've asked for those things. There's a reason why there's so much secrecy. That's because there's a violation of privacy rights. That's why there's so much secrecy. Your Honor, this is an extremely important motion, and the court is going to decide whether we do have any expectation of privacy left or not. The IGG evidence in this case should absolutely be suppressed.
Whoa, all right. Tipping the scales. So they went into 2 that they weren't supposed to. Do you think that was a grin? So when she answered the judge, and went like, this, and answered him real quick, she kind of grinned. Do you think that was a grin because he did opt out? She knows he opted out. She knows that he uploaded it to the 2 places that she says they weren't allowed. It sounds to me like he put his DNA profile in 2 different companies, did opt out. And then, like she said, because remember, we know the DNA went to ISP. It went from ISP to Orthram. Went from Orthram, then the FBI came and took it. Because nobody was getting anything. So then when they take it over, and they go into those 2 companies that you're not allowed to do that, and all of a sudden, boom! Because remember, I always remind people, we did the deep dives on the every single police statement from beginning to end. We did the deep dive in the very beginning because they were like, this don't. And the day he got arrested, we started, or maybe it was right before that, we started deep diving it. All of the different statements, like, this don't make sense. All the way up until December 16th and the 17th, according to Fry, they were looking for a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. To the 16th and the 17th of December. They already had some of the work from the test on the DNA. She's saying the FBI just took the test from Orthram. Here, we're going to take the work that you did. We're going to put it in our database. And then, according to her, they went into 2 companies you're not allowed to. And all of a sudden, boom! All of a sudden, bam! Late December. Hey, it's him. They weren't setting up. They were looking for a 2011 to 2013. They had already interviewed Kohberger already and knew that Kohberger drove a 2015 because there was already a cop from Washington State in Pullman, and there was already a Moscow PD cop that showed up the same time somehow had different plates for when they did their stops. Don't get their interviews, don't get it. But there was a Moscow and a Pullman cop that talked to Brian Kohberger in the very beginning. So they knew Kohberger had a 2015 Hyundai. It was in their records, even though one of their reports showed a Washington plate and the other report showed a Idaho plate, or I mean a Pennsylvania plate and an Idaho plate. You can't have, listen, he didn't change his plates until after, right? But it had the same year of car. So you already knew what he was driving. If he was on your radar before the 16th and the 17th, you wouldn't have said on the 16th and the 17th Fry that it was a 2011 to 2013 still. You would have said 2015. You didn't have to say, we don't know what year it is, boys, but we know the name. No, you already knew the name. You already knew the vehicle year number. Why do you think the FBI started to get pissed off at Moscow in the investigation? Remember when the FBI was at odds with ISP and MPD in December? You remember? They were at odds. This is the same time period they became at odds. Because you're telling an FBI expert that he was wrong. The FBI expert was the one that came up with the 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. The FBI. So when you got Fry still going at it, and then all of a sudden they switch it to a 2015, that's Moscow PD and ISP telling the FBI that they're the guy that's been doing it for over 30 some years for the FBI is wrong. You're wrong. They're just going, we just gave you the tip. We didn't look, what? Huh? We just gave you the tip. You need to do better. I feel like the FBI, I really do. I feel like the FBI, after a month of seeing this foolery of an investigation, I really do feel like the FBI was like, hot potato. We don't want to touch that shit. Hot potato. Damn, that's a hot potato. Look at that thing. It's like those fish that you're out at a lake. You know what I mean? You're out at a lake and you spit in the water and there's a whole bunch of fish that come up to the surface like it's food. That's what these frickin', that's what MPD and ISP were doing. The FBI was just spitting. And frickin' MPD and ISP are all, oh my gosh, it's food, it's food, it's food. Just scattering all over, you know? What the oh man, they are so not prepared, especially with those court hearings. I can't wait for that show on Thursday. Now, this is defense claims unconstitutional. Let me see if this is just the court. Okay, this is people actually talking. So I want to hear this. We're going to go into the family interviews after that, and then we're going to watch that Vinny episode on Court TV where CC Moore's on there again. I always continue to promote CC Moore on the Presumption podcast. It was like from a year and a half ago. Great episode. I definitely suggest anybody to check it out. I'll drop the link in chat for you here sometime when I can find it. But all you have to do is Presumption Podcast, CC Moore. It's a great episode. She's going to be on Court TV, and we're going to get into that after this.
Now for what's tipping the scales of justice in the Idaho student murders case for defendant Brian Kohberger. He's going to be back in court today for day 2 of his all-important motions hearing. His defense lawyers are asking the judge to throw out most of the evidence in the case because they say it all hinges on an unconstitutional genetic investigation process. Kohberger's lawyers also argue that the search warrants were tainted by police misconduct.
When Idaho State Police Forensics Lab, through Moscow Police Department, moved a DNA sample to Othram Laboratories to develop a profile to run through genetic genealogy investigations. There was no warrant for that search for a SNP profile that could be used to attempt to identify somebody. The next stage would be when that was transferred to the FBI for their forensic investigative genetic genealogy work to try to identify somebody. No warrant was in place for that work either. Finally, there was a trash pool in Pennsylvania, and there was no warrant for that trash pool either.
All right, in this segment, I want to focus on that trash pool. And these are the beautiful victims who were killed in November of 2022. And so the defense team here is trying to get out. The biggest thing is the DNA that came from the knife sheath, the trace DNA that was left on the snap, comparing it to a trash pool and DNA obtained at the Kohberger home. And they found what was on the knife came from the spawn of Papa Kohberger. And so the defense team is saying this is unconstitutional. The genetic genealogy testing that the state done, unconstitutional. Okay. Let's talk about that, because if it's excluded, does the case fall apart? Let me bring in our brilliant legal eagles, David Bruno and Joe Tamburino, to talk about this. Okay, so the unconstitutionality, so they say, of what was done here. David Bruno, what do you think about that?
We're back in the Fourth Amendment. Reasonable, right? What is reasonable? What is not? And when we're talking about this garbage, when we're talking about databases, we always have to talk about the expectation of privacy. And that is really relevant here. You know, traditionally and historically speaking, when you put garbage out at the curb, you do not have an expectation of privacy when you discard that particular property. On the issue of these databases, the question is going to be, well, what was in the databases? How did they get those profiles? And did the people know that they were giving up sort of their rights? When people submit DNA and they're trying to get those lineages and those histories and things, there are a lot of provisions and you're waiving a lot of rights. And it really is fact sensitive on what databases they went into, because what we're talking about is the DNA on the knife sheath. And that essentially is the smoking gun. If they get that in and they can prove that Kohberger's DNA is on the knife sheath found under one of the bodies at the crime scene, that's game over. So the question becomes, I mean, that DNA sample that's there in the crime scene, there's no expectation of privacy to that. They're doing the DNA on that. And then it's the comparisons is really what is at play for the Fourth Amendment. The reasonable, was it reasonable? And also expectation of privacy. I think the government's on pretty firm foot on both those questions.
David Bruno, I think you should get some CLE credits for all the teaching you're doing this morning on this show.
Oh my gosh, the ass kissing is just too much. There's too much going on that dude's feed. You got all these different angles on the background. The suit's got all these different directions going. My eyes are just going, what the hell? Like, smoking gun. Who is this guy? Smoking gun. Who is this guy? Look at him. He's all proud. Who is this guy? Hold on, let me all right, so we're at 352. Let me go to the beginning. I gotta hear who is this guy? 352.
About that, because if it's excluded, does the case fall apart? Let me bring in our brilliant legal eagles, David Bruno and Joe Tamburino, to talk about this. Okay, so the unconstitutionality, so they say, of what was done here. David Bruno, what do you think?
David Bruno, legal eagle. 352. David Bruno.
Thank you for that. Speaking of the expectation of privacy, Joe Tamburino, I know you've got a lot to say about this. Apparently, the court thought Mr. Kohberger deserved some privacy. Yesterday, the judge had closed off part of the hearing from the public. Our courties were very disappointed, and then allowed the public to see the other half of the hearing, making everybody wonder, well, why was it we couldn't see all of it? Curious what you think about that ruling.
What I think is it's a wrong ruling, and media organizations should sue, because you can't just close a courtroom. I mean, federal law, state law, but mostly federal law under the First Amendment, we have open courtrooms. Yes, in certain juvenile cases and things like that. But 99% of the time, you just can't shut the courtroom doors. And the judge did it under this theory of, well, we're going to be talking about evidence that if it gets out there, it could taint the jury, a future jury. Well, if that's the reasoning, then you would basically close every criminal hearing before trial.
Oh, dang. I like this dude. I like this dude. Show it all. You know what I mean? Hey, what's up, Yvette? I like this dude, right? Show the whole... Exactly. We have a right to see how our legal process plays out, to see if we're being lied to see if the right thing is happening. It's our human right. I like this guy. He says the media organization should sue them. Who is this guy? David No, that was the other guy. Joe Lampadito.
The hearing, making everybody wonder, well, why was it we couldn't see all of it? Curious what you think about that ruling.
What I think is it's a wrong...
Closed off part of the hearing from the public, some privacy. Yesterday, the judge had closed off part of the hearing from the public. Our courties were very disappointed, and then allowed the public to see the other half of the hearing, making everybody wonder, well, why was it we couldn't see all of it? Curious what you think about that ruling.
I don't remember.
What I think is it's a wrong ruling, and media organizations should sue, because you can't just close a courtroom. I mean, federal law, state law, but mostly federal law under the First Amendment, we have open courtrooms. Yes, in certain juvenile cases and things like that. But 99% of the time, you just can't shut the courtroom doors. And the judge did it under this theory of, well, we're going to be talking about evidence that if it gets out there, it could taint the jury, a future jury. Well, if that's the reasoning, then you would basically close every criminal hearing before trial, because of course you're going to hear evidence that might not be admissible at trial, and some potential juror could hear it. That's why you go through jury selection. You try to weed out those people. So closing the courtroom is ridiculous.
Boom.
Additionally, it violates Idaho's victim laws. A victim has rights. A victim families have rights in Idaho, as with all states. And 19.5306 under Idaho law says that victims can be in all court proceedings. Actually, in Idaho, they say they could be even in juvenile proceedings. So we have a violation of open courtrooms under the First Amendment. We have a violation of a victim's rights. And I think, I mean, if that happened here in Minneapolis, media organizations here are very active, especially since the Chauvin trial years ago. There would be a lawsuit to get those courtroom doors open.
Boom.
Damn! I feel like ending the damn show after that. Oh, shit. Damn. I feel like ending the show after... Dude, I will fuck it. Here's the mic. I'll drop it for you, bro. Oh, jeez. Dang. I like this dude. I'm the mic drop wingman. Oh shit. Here, let me drop it for you, sir. Right? It was such a mic drop. He was just like, Maestro, drop that mic. Yes, sir. Holy hell. Dang. So it makes me wonder what. Oh, this redacted. Let me see. Yoli said. Right? Here, drop this night. Yes, no problem, sir. There. See you guys tomorrow. Later. Oh shoot. So you. Oh shoot. Oh, we still got more stuff to get into. I should have said it. Listen, I don't pre-watch my stuff a lot of the times. I already have an idea and kind of outline it how I want to go through it. If I would have pre-watched this, if there was an intern that said, CJ, this guy has a really good point at the all right, we're going to save that for the end. Yes, here you go. But no, I don't pre-watch it. So sorry, buddy. I would have loved to. You know what? I'm going to right before we end the show, hold on, let me write that down. We are going to do that right before we end the show tonight. We're going to go back to this part of the Court TV segment, and we're going to drop the mic for him like we're supposed to. That dude, hell yeah. I think she even said boom. Hold on. Let me see. I think she even said boom.
Let those courtroom doors open.
Boom. Drop the mic. Joe Tamburino, you deserve CLE credits too for all of that legal presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, look at this guy over here. He's not smiling so much anymore, is he? He's like, damn. Damn. Oh, shoot. Oh, she went boom, mic drop. Oh, good times. All right. We're going to get through these parents' interviews real quick. And then now look at his eyes, detective. That's eyes of jealousy. Look at the dude in the blue tie. Look at blue tie. He's like, look at his eyes and his cheeks, his facial structure, right? He's relaxed. He's like, yeah, I just said that shit. His face is like he just wiped his forehead, all the sweat off his forehead and went. Right? Or how the kids used to do the dap. Oh, but the guy all the way over there, look at his cheeks. He's like, you son of a. He's gonna play nice, but he's like, dang it! I had this crazy flashy background. I had this flashy suit, and I still got outshined. Damn. Yeah, those are the cheeks of jealousy, ladies and gentlemen. The cheeks of jealousy. All right. This is going to be a sad part. We're going to watch, there's like 4 or 5 interviews with the Consalvis family. It's crazy. They kind of say the same thing as this guy over here. Jealous cheeks. They say the same thing as jealous cheeks over here. Cheeks of jealousy. That's like the cologne he wears, isn't it? Cheeks of jealousy. Man, we're coming out with some good shit tonight. Cheeks of jealousy. Oh shit. Yeah, let's get serious. We're gonna get to these family interviews. Now, these two, I don't know if one was cut out or one was shortened or what. Uh uh Oh, I could listen, I got so much more. I could talk about how it enhances your skin and all these. I'm not good. Listen, I could go on and on. I need a comedy night, but we're not going to have one tonight. I got to stick to this. All right, we're going to go to these interviews here. Some of them were before the court hearing, and some of them were after. I think it was messed up though. After you listen to what this guy said in the blue tie, and the fact that any of the people that went there to be able to attend, and they weren't able to go into the courtroom, especially family. No, I thought that was paid for, Amy. I thought that was already paid for. I don't know, though. I don't get into their personal finances, whatever. Listen, it's like this. You got to know who you're donating and contributing to. You really do. Okay? That's because anybody can put that stuff up. You know what I'm saying? Anybody can. But it's just like these other shows that we discussed in the Sebastian show last night. The people that are money, donate every 10 minutes, be a member every 5 minutes, my links are at the bottom every 2 minutes. You gotta know it's up to the person. You know what I'm saying? It's up to the person to know. You know what I mean? Because just like this is why we appreciate it so much, because we know, it's tough, but at the same time, can I tell somebody like, hey, look, these are signs? Of course I can. Do I? No. Last night, yeah, it was a show about that and attention getters and movie skits and all of this, the bashing and all of it. That was part of it. But it's all up to the individual, But when it comes to what this guy's saying, you feel bad when it comes to the family, because if he's sitting there and be like, yeah, the news organizations can sue, it's like, holy hell. Well, dang, why did they have to stay outside, right? So we'll get to this one. I don't know if the one after that is a longer version or if it's something separate, but there's two of them. So we'll get into these interviews. This was before the court hearing on Thursday and Friday. Thank you all for being here.
The man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students is back in court here in Boise this week. Judge Stephen Hippler denied a request from media requesting full access to the Kohberger hearings, which are scheduled to happen today and tomorrow. Attorneys on both sides of the case argued whether or not the public has the right to observe all of the proceedings in this case. Kohberger and his attorneys support making the hearings public, but the judge says that could make it difficult to find a jury before trial this summer.
Both parties' rights to a fair trial is paramount, as is the public's right to know. But I also have to weigh that against the ability to have a fair trial by getting a jury panel that has not been tainted by the publication of widespread publication of evidence that may not be admissible at trial.
Portions.
Okay, so let me just skip ahead. Because it might be the same interview. It just had this stuff attached to it.
Alleged police misconduct. And the parents of victim Kaylee Gonzalez are speaking out about that.
The truth will come out. What happened, you know? What happened that fateful night to our daughter, you know, and her best friend as they were, you know, in their bed. What happened?
Yeah.
Why?
You can't seal
Very
everything and ask the public to be a part of the case. At one point, you gotta stop sealing, and we've heard some of the Hippler's comments saying that not everything should be sealed that has been sealed, and we look forward to those things being brought to the public's attention.
So it's interesting because he even says right there that stuff should have been just the sealing and the sealing and the sealing. She's dead set on it being BK. She's totally put all of her, you can see her posts. You know, it's dead set on BK. You've seen him in interviews before where she's been dead set on BK and they ask him about it and he's like, I need to see more. I see him still being that. I still see him, even though he says it's a slam dunk and all this other stuff. Look at this comment that he's making right here. They kept sealing. Just stop sealing. Just stop sealing. This you know, Hippler talked about how stuff is not going to be sealed. Stuff should be brought to the public. You know, because it was this guy right here that everybody was hating on. If you guys remember, the first 2 months, the first month and a half actually, from when the crime took place, the first month and a half when he and her were doing all those Fox News, NBC, News Nation, Court TV, they were doing all of these national media interviews, and people were hating on this man for the first month and a half when he was the only reason we were getting information to dig into, because law enforcement wasn't telling nothing. Hell, they were barely even coming out making a statement. This man right here, remember when he said, "Don't make me be the alpha here? Step up and do your jobs." Because they were the ones, he was the one, him and Olivia, his daughter Olivia, were the ones that were doing the sleuthing. That's how we found out about the grub truck. That's how the police found out about the grub truck. Was from them. I still feel, as much as she, because, oh boy, this is one thing you should never do. You should never tie your emotions into somebody else, because you're probably always going to lose. It's not a good outcome. The percentage is not in your favor. Don't ever put your emotion or success into somebody else. It's upon you. You are in control of your emotion. She's dead set on it being BK. If he gets off, I hate to see. Oh. I hate to see the posts that are going to come out on the Facebook page. I hate to, health-wise. I mean, you're talking, ooh, because she is dead set on it being BK, and if it's not him, oh my lord, that's gonna. But him, I still feel like, even though it's a slam dunk, because you're gonna hear that too. I still feel like with this beginning comment, it's like, I need to see it too. They didn't forget that they were the first ones given the public information that the public should have had when they were trying to seal it back then. Shh. That's why they asked him, look, slow down, Steve. You're going way ahead. Not that you're not on the wrong track. You're just way ahead, and we got to cross our T's and dot our I's, and it takes us time. So remember, they asked him to slow down. You're not on the wrong track. We just have to. He told you. He told you on that winter night, just a month and a half after.
Police misconduct. And the parents of victim Kaylee Gonzalez are speaking out about that.
The truth will come out. What happened, what happened that fateful night to our daughter, and her best friend as they were, in their bed. What happened?
Yeah.
Why?
You can't seal
Very
everything
dark.
and ask the public to be a part of the case. At one point, you got to stop sealing. And we've heard some of the Hippler's comments saying that not everything should be sealed that has been sealed. And we look forward to those things being brought to the public's attention, because the public needs to agree that everything's being done the way it should be done.
That's Steve and Christy Gonzalez. They are in Boise right now. They will be at those hearings this week. And to see the full interview with them, tune in to the Today Show this morning right after Wake Up.
Okay, so here's the next interview. This is the full one.
And starting tomorrow, Brian Kohberger's attorneys will argue certain pieces of evidence should not be obvious while they're speaking out about it.
It's really hard to be
Just this is Amy. This is why I think that Steve did the 360. This is why. Look at this photo right here. Look at this photo. Because if I have a wife, okay? If I have a wife and I'm in this same position, because I'm not going to sit there and accept. I'm not going to sit there and accept. I'm going to question. Okay, you see what I'm doing on my shows and when I'm out there in the field, right? I question. I don't take stuff at face value. Actions have to meet words. I've heard enough words in my life and not actions. I'm done. I ain't got that time. You better put actions with the words. So if I'm in this position and my wife, because Christy's been like this, and prayers to her. You know what I'm saying? I can't even imagine. I'm sure I can't even imagine. But if my wife, this is on camera, I can imagine how hard it is for Steve. If it was my wife and, oh my gosh, listen, I will say it's a slam dunk, but I'll also say the public deserves to see stuff, right? I got to protect my wife. I got to protect my wife. That's my job. That's my vow to my wife. I will be there for you no matter what. To protect you when you're down on one knee. I'm the hand that doesn't walk away. I'm the hand that reaches out. I will be your energy until you can get it back. I will be your strength until you can get it back. I will be that for you until you can get it back. So I'm slam dunk, because am I wrong if I'm repeating stuff that's being told to us? Because she's hearing the same stuff that he's hearing from the people in the investigation, it's a slam dunk. We got so much. They've been saying it for a long time. We've got so much. It's a slam dunk. I'm going to say that shit because I'm not lying. I'm not being dishonest to my wife. And it could be true. It could be a slam. I don't listen. If it's sealed, I haven't seen it. It could be a slam dunk. It could be this. I'm not disrespecting my wife in any way. I'm protecting her in every way possible. But I'm also gonna do what he said. The public deserves to see it because you know damn well who's gonna be the one to change Christie's mind if it really isn't BK. Steve. Say the information comes out, right? Say there's a trial. And Steve, and after the trial, say he gets set free. Say BK gets set free. And he's sitting down there with Christy and she's having a hard time and he goes, Christy, look at this part of the transcript. Now look at this part of the transcript. This is what it says right here. Christy, they got the wrong guy. Christy, they got the wrong guy. Look at what it says here. See how that doesn't make sense, babe? He can be the one. If it really, right? Because from the beginning, he knows. Shit was being shady from the beginning. From the beginning, he knew that they had to keep this negativity away from Moscow and away from the university because Steve was the one that told you from the very beginning that Moscow would cease to exist. I'm not trying to make Moscow fall apart, disappear. But we need to find this person. He knows. They all know. Moscow and Pullman. Moscow has competition in Pullman because they're so close together. They could literally snag each other's own students easily. Listen, if Moscow University, Idaho ceased to exist and Moscow ends up going away because that's the only reason why they exist, there's still going to be Pullman. There's still going to be opportunity for those people in that area that don't want to travel far away from home and go to school. There's still going to be that. He knew what was going on. I think he's just, when you look at this photo, this is a photo to me where he's like, I can't imagine the consoling that he has to do. As much as people hate this guy, to me, from the very beginning when he was coming out, telling people information that police didn't want to offer up that should have been out to the public, they were wanting to do a reward and they were told they couldn't. They wanted to do a reward to find the killer and they were told they couldn't do a reward. That dude's fought from the very beginning, and you can see him fighting for his wife right now. She told you how many months ago that she already used up all of her vacation time because she's had to call. And prayers to her too, because she lost her baby too. I can't imagine. And look at him. He's just trying to do everything. Look at how, we talk about BK. Look at Steve compared to what he looked like when this first took place. Look at him now. He looks another 10 years older, and it's only been a couple years. It's prayers to them.
Just shut out of everything every time. And we just want answers.
We want people to see the justice. We want them to see the evidence, and then they support us. The last thing that we've talked about is we don't want to get to a convicted and he's on death row, and then we have to deal with these clowns that are going to say he's forever innocent because of some stupid particular thing that was hidden from the public.
That you see all the shows that take place after somebody's convicted or exonerated. There's shows that still talk about it. It's not going to stop, Steve. It's not going to stop. Social media. When has it ever been this beautiful sunrise view? Social media. Social media just continues to get uglier and uglier every single day, and has been since it was created. It's just, it's social media. It's just part of it.
Let it out. Let it all out. I know how strong this case is. This case is rock solid. This thing's a home run.
And that was just part of what the Gonzalez family had to say ahead of the upcoming hearings. To see the full interview, tune in to the Today Show tomorrow morning after Wake Up.
To the Today Show. Well, I didn't have that one. All right, this one is from Idaho News 6. We'll be getting into that Vinny episode here in a minute with Cece Moore. I can't wait.
For Idaho News 6, I'm senior reporter Don Nelson. Steve and Christy Gonzalez are in Boise looking for justice. Justice for their daughter, Kaylee, who was one of 4 University of Idaho students who were brutally murdered in Moscow almost 2.5 years ago.
I hate to say it, but I've had a lot of challenges in my life, and I think maybe I was kind of built for this.
This, for Steve Gonzalez, is the process of healing, overcoming extreme loss and making sure the memory of Kaylee lives on. Why did you and your wife want to be here today in Boise?
I feel like my daughter would expect me to be here. I think if we ever talked about, some kind of tragedy happening in our family, we'd all come together.
I spoke with Steve outside the Ada County Courthouse during a break in court. Steve said the road ahead will be a rough one for his entire family, but he feels they can actually help others through this period of grieving.
I think we can help other families and help them get through something like this and provide, some steps and some things that you can do. Because when it happens, there's no kit that comes in the mail that says, this is how you get through this.
Steve will be the first to tell you the support his family has received has been a blessing.
We've had support from the very beginning. And even in Moscow, when we didn't really know anyone, we've just had people come forward and help us and reach out. And it's been the same here. They're strangers until they're not, and people call and they open their doors to us.
Idaho News 6 will continue to provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of the trial of Brian Kohberger.
Gavel to gavel. All right, and then there's a couple more still. Got a couple more interviews here. This is News Nation.
His lawyers say the way that the cops tracked him down was flawed. That the DNA tracing that led
Yes, perfect camera placement for this video.
Directly to him, that was an invasion of privacy, and that everything cops found after that.
Oh, I can't stand her voice. Hold on a minute. We just gotta fast forward. I'm sorry.
Gonzalez, a longtime friend of the program, he lost his beloved daughter, Kaylee, in the King Road massacre, and he is following every minute of this case. Steve, it's good to see you again. Thank you for being here, and I'm going to...
Oh, my Lord. Dude, how did she just say that to him? Okay, number one, who calls it the King Road Massacre? Who calls it the King Road Massacre? And that's messed up. That's like your first question. How you doing? How do you think I'm doing? How you doing? I can't. I hate that about when people interview people, you know, and some horrific thing like this happened, and they're like, "So how you doing?" What do you expect me to tell you? I don't know. You know, my daughter was just murdered, and I never thought it would happen, and I'm missing a piece of my heart, and I wake up every single day wondering if this is really real or not. Is that a good answer for you? Like, what the hell do you think? This right here. Why not just call it the crime at 11:22? You're going to call it the King Road Massacre with what took place at that home to the dad? The awareness is just gone with mainstream. Holy hell.
A longtime friend of the program, he lost his beloved daughter, Kaylee, in the King Road Massacre, and he is following every minute of this case. Steve, it's good to see you again. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to say Happy New Year because I'm hoping it will be a happier New Year for you. In the meantime, what do you make?
Happy New Year. It's fucking almost February, Ashley. Oh, this is why I have such a hard time going through this. I don't even want to hear her voice. I'm just Happy New Year. It's freaking damn near February.
I mean, it's a sign of desperation. They're definitely throwing everything out and trying to get, some chance of being able to, that is her job. She has to do everything. She has to exhaust every avenue that she possibly has. So we don't take it personal. But
Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year.
But today was probably a hard blow for her. She's probably gonna have a hard time sleeping tonight because, what happened today in the courtroom was very, very strong for prosecution.
I was going to ask you about that. Did you get a sense? I mean, as a non-lawyer, sometimes that's the best sense to get, right? Because that's what juries are. They're the non-lawyers. Did you get a sense one way or another from that judge? Because he's been tough all the way along since he got this case. Did you feel that he was giving her a run for her money?
I think he gave both sides a run for their money. I think he has a clear vision of where.
Yeah, like I was saying, it's like that coach. Because trust me, I've had plenty of coaches that they know somebody's talented and they literally like harass the shit out of you. It's like I would get so mad at my coaches, like I'm fucking, I'd be out playing these mother effers on the court, and yet I'm the one that's got to run the most. I'm the one that's got to do the most drills. I'm like, what the hell? That's why I'd always get angry and fight back. Why should I have to do twice as many as these people do when I'm twice as good? And then I started to realize when I got older, yeah, they pushed me because they saw the potential. They didn't want it wasted. I feel the same way. He was doing it to both of them. Like, look, I want to see both of your A game, and I'm going to push you, both of you, to make sure you get your A game out.
The day's hearing's going to go, and then he tries to keep that that discussion close to those issues that need to be resolved during that day, during that session. So yeah, we talked with some of the lawyers today. We get a good sense that he's keeping things on a tight rail, and we have a summer trial, and we're not going to get there unless we have the right leadership that can keep everybody on the same path and communicating and getting things done in an orderly fashion. And I really feel like that's what he was doing today.
Yeah.
You have a.
All right, let me go to where he starts talking. All right, right here.
Yes, he does. And we do communicate, and we try to work with the prosecution to make sure that we're all on the same page. And yeah, I think they have a strong case. Obviously, you want to have the strongest case possible, and having DNA, there's nothing stronger than that. And it's not going to be taken out of the court. So even if it was, yeah, there is still, I mean, there's still the Amazon order. They talked about that today. You know, when you start seeing the things all add up, you can tell that this individual has had a history. And
dude, did you see Steve G? Did you see Brett Payne and Maury's? Did you see their testimonies? Did you see Payne and Maury's testimonies? Woo! This trial is going to be wild. The not sure and I don't remembers. Oh my Lord. We're going to have a tally system, and it's going to be the most not sures and I don't remembers that you've ever heard in a court case trial in your life. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. Freeze.
It was building up to this. It wasn't just some type of a crumb of passion.
I am praying for you and your family and the other families who are affected by.
Yeah, okay. All right, here's the next one.
I feel like anything the jury's going to see in that courtroom, we should all see. You shouldn't run from the truth. You shouldn't hide the truth, even if it makes somebody look guilty. So that part of the still work to be done.
The father of one of the University of Idaho murder victims is speaking out ahead of the trial, sharing his thoughts on the legal proceedings and finding justice for his daughter. Steve Gonsalves is the father of Kaylee Gonsalves, who was killed in 2022, along with Madison Mogan, Ethan Chapin, and Xander Kernodle. The Gonsalves family was in Boise to listen to this week's hearings ahead of the upcoming trial of Brian Kohberger, who's charged in the quadruple murder. Jury selection is scheduled to begin July 30th, with the trial starting in August. The Gonsalves family remains hopeful about seeing justice served.
Not just my daughter, all these victims, they matter. I want to remind Idaho, remain strong. I love Idaho. There's a part where I was bitter and I was mad, but when you look at it over the thing, you look at all the facts, Idaho's as much as a victim as our kids.
As the trial proceeds, Gonsalves is hopeful he will be allowed to attend in person and witness the proceedings.
Well, let's be honest, when the law enforcement doesn't do what they were supposed to do from the very beginning, kind of make yourself become a victim, no? All right, we're going to get to the Vinny episode. Now, I'm going to go to, I'm going to see where CeCe Moore is.
There may be some issues with
talking first. So I want to make sure we listen to CeCe Moore before we listen to anything right here. IGG. Let's see here. Why is everything sealed? Look at that. Vinny's not wearing a tie. Holy hell. He's popping collars on this one. Vinny, dude, that is it because it's Billy Pollen Investigates? Huh. When has he not worn a tie? He's always had a pastel tie on it, unless it's regular blue. Otherwise, it's always pastel. Yeah, I can't wait. We might even, if we have more time, we'll see. We might even go into that CC Moore thing again. Otherwise, we might go into it in another show coming up this weekend. And we might replay that one from a long time ago. When we went into it. And then there's some other stuff I want to go into that we won't be able to get into because it doesn't have anything to do with the court hearings. Probably have another show Saturday night, maybe Sunday.
Florida and Florida again. So what is happening here? We saw all of these things are sealed, including some of the hearings in a public case in a public trial, which brings me to the first question in my investigation tonight. Why is everything sealed? Is this normal in Idaho? Is this the way justice is done in Idaho? Is it not?
His crew has to be feeling so uncomfortable right now, like, oh my gosh, he keeps looking at the monitor. Like, Vinny, turn around. The camera's right here, buddy. Right here. Camera number 4's on, Vinny, not 6. Camera 4.
Which brings me to the first question in my investigation tonight. Why is everything sealed?
Camera 4, Vinny.
Is this normal in Idaho? Is
Camera
this the
4.
way justice is done in Idaho?
4.
Is it not as transparent as other states around the nation? Do the people of Idaho and the public not have access to things that are happening inside of their courtrooms?
Yes.
It's unusual for me.
Yes.
So let's get the inside scoop from two guys who know Idaho law very well. First, the attorney who represented Chad Daybell, John Pryor, is with us. You know him. And trial lawyer and former Idaho Attorney General, Dave Leroy, is with us. Great to see you guys. I'm glad you're here. I started covering trials in Idaho just recently, and it was, some of the other cases involving Lori Daybell. Dave, let me start with you. Is this normal? Is this usual for Idaho to seal a lot of things from the public and including having hearings that are...
It'd be like, they're in the middle of recording this, and they're like, Vinny, camera 4, Vinny, and he just keeps looking at the camera, why is it sealed? Why is it sealed? Vinny, camera 4. Over. Vinny. All right, guys, we got to shut it down. We got to shut it down. Hold on. We'll clip it in a second. Okay, we're back now.
First, the attorney who represented Chad Daybell, John Pryor, is with us. You know him. And trial lawyer and former Idaho Attorney General, Dave Leroy, is with us. Great to see you guys. I'm glad you're here. I started covering trials in Idaho just recently, and it was, some of the other cases involving Lori Daybell. Dave, let me start with you. Is this normal? Is this usual for Idaho to seal a lot of things from the public and including having hearings that are sealed from the public?
Well, as your setup suggested, there's nothing very normal about this particular case. And this is an extraordinary amount of sealing going on. But part of that sealing, I presume, is designed by the court and with the concurrence of the parties or the assertion of one party or another that something about this, if revealed pre-jury trial, may have the tendency to taint an objective jury. Much of that sealing, I presume, Benny, is to keep evidence away from you so that you will not be putting it on the national news as one way or another potentially influencing the case. Sealing in Idaho is done on an ad hoc basis, meaning that each party can make a particular application for a particular and specified reason, often in secret, and the judge makes a decision in their best discretion about what the answer is. But I presume that most of this sealing is designed to minimize pretrial publicity and enhance the possibility of finding swiftly and accurately an objective jury.
So, John Pryor, is this unusual in your practice to have this much stuff shielded from the public, including hearings?
Well, I agree wholeheartedly with David. In the general criminal case, general trial, it's highly unusual to have this much sealing. When you're dealing with a case that has a lot of publicity, and this Kohlberger case has a tremendous amount of publicity, and in recent years there's been another case or two that had a lot of publicity. The courts are working very hard at protecting not only witnesses but evidence from getting out that might influence people prior to they selecting the jury. And that's a lot of what's going on, is that they're doing this to make sure that both parties have a fair opportunity to get an unbiased jury who haven't been exposed to a lot of the information. And really, that's the predominant reason for it, Vinny.
So, Dave, from my perspective, been with Court TV for a long time, longer than any other person at Court TV, by the way. So, from my perspective, all we do is cover high-profile cases, whether it's a local case that's high-profile or national. Cases like O.J. Simpson, Casey Anthony, Jodi Arias. And inevitably, through the years, these cases are super high profile. People talk about it from the moment the crime occurs, all the way through all the litigation, and then to the trial. And what I've noticed through the years is that they always get a jury, number one. And number two, the jury bases their verdict on the evidence. Like, why don't we trust that? Why don't we trust that we have voir dire, that we have jurors who listen to the judges?
What? When did this become breaking news that the jury convicts people off of evidence? What? He's not making sense.
And inevitably, through the years, these cases are super high profile. People talk about it from the moment the crime occurs, all the way through all the litigation, and then to the trial. And what I've noticed through the years is that they always get a jury, number one. And number two, the jury bases their verdict on the evidence. Like,
all right, guys, we're going to have to shut it down. Vinny lost his damn mind. We'll see you tomorrow. What the?
Why don't we trust that? Why don't we trust that we have voir dire, that we have jurors who listen to the judge's instructions and base it? We've been shocked many times, whether it's guilty or not guilty, by juries based on the evidence.
Well, Vinny, remember, I come from the world of politics where we trust but verify. And that verification is often best done up front rather than at the end of the case. It seems to me that we're in this case where we have already had a change of venue due to what the defense successfully advocated was too much pretrial publicity in a small venue like Moscow, Latah County, Idaho, in North Idaho. Now we're moved 300 miles away to the Boise media area. It's better to be safe than sorry. I understand.
Yeah, because when I show you this and you see how little frickin' room there is, there's not much room. You go to the side streets, look, you barely even have room for two cars because there's always cars parked on both sides. You're lucky right here. It's so scrunched. You want to see downtown? This is This is daytime by the house. That's daytime by the house. Look at that. I was so freaked out when that car was coming. Oh boy. You got people walking, flying out on bikes. I mean, just all over the place. See how I moved over to the right some more? I'm like, ah! And I was kind of flying on this one. This was one of the days it was more sunny. Yeah, good luck. Look at all the damn vehicles all over the place. Look at that. Packed. 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 No. Let's show you a video of downtown real quick. If I even remember what, let me see. No, that's Pullman. There's downtown. This is driving through downtown. So this is downtown Moscow. You see how full it is? And there's no trial there. Look at all those parking lots to the left and to the right. It's so crunch and cramped. Yeah, there's a lot of white vehicles too. Yeah, you'll notice that in all my footage. Look right there. White. Yeah, white vehicles everywhere. Look at that. White vehicles everywhere. There's your Moscow PD. And we went that way. We ain't gonna get pulled over like Gray Hughes. Or have the dash in our camera. You got full screen. You got so many people walking, so many people riding bikes. The parking lots are full, the streets are full. And there's no trial, no national media trial going on. It's so... All right. I just wanted to show those. We're going to have some footage shows sometime where we're just going to chill back and watch a bunch of footage that nobody's seen or we haven't even showed yet. I got so much. But let's get back to this. Sorry, I got lost in the footage here.
Understand that trying cases in the media is something that we all are allowed to do as citizens, and it's great TV, as your network has successfully projected over the years. But to the extent that we can upfront protect a objective, unbiased jury in a very sensational case, I think it's not inappropriate to do that. The extent to which we're doing that here in Idaho is overwhelming, as you pointed out, but perhaps there's a reason for that. We simply don't know what's behind those seals. And many of those seals are in that list that you projected also were sealed and redacted. So there is likely to be some kind of public or private protection in addition to the public protection behind those particular orders that also have a redaction.
Yeah, and if it's, you know, the safe.
Damn, the redactions are redacted? Just like I said in the beginning, we're going to see these redacted transcripts from this court hearing, and the redactions are going to be redacted. You're just going to see 5 thes for every page. The blank, 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 the blank, blank, the
safety of someone, I get it, but if it's something else. Now, John, let me read this, because this is from the defendant's motion, and it's the defendant's motion to unseal. The suspected killer, by and through his attorneys of record, hereby moves the honorable court for an order to unseal the investigative genetic genealogy referred to as genetic information, or IGG suppression briefing and related hearing. Here, the way in which the IGG material is accessed and used is a matter warranting public disclosure and should not be shielded from the public's right to know. So in this scenario, John, it is the accused, right? The one who's always worried about, you know, getting a fair trial, who wants something to be unsealed in public. Like, from where I'm sitting, like, then there should be no reason for it to be sealed, especially if the defendant himself is saying, hey, let the public see this.
Well, Vinny, in this particular case, that's a pure way of looking at that. I have a suspicion that there may be some issues with the evidence that they're trying to attack on the defense side, and there may be some things that might be either embarrassing or inappropriate, or there's been some tampering, or there's a chain of custody issue.
Who's got the Brady Giglio? The prosecution. Sorry, Judge. We're going to have to let you know in the spring of 2023, there is a current investigation going on with somebody that's involved in this investigation from a prior we got to let you know this, Judge. There's a Brady Giglio. We got to let you know. Who had to? BT. Come on, man.
And what the defense is probably trying to do, now I haven't looked at the pleadings and I don't have access, but when the defense tries to unseal and say, no, we need to let the entire public see what happened, that's usually a situation in which the defense is trying to gain some ground by suggesting that maybe what the law enforcement and the police did in this case may have been inappropriate in some way. And that's really a lot of what I think is going on. It's my personal opinion. I don't have access to the pleadings, but
you know what?
So he thinks that this stuff is sealed because I got to listen to this again. Did I hear him right? Did let me make sure I heard him right, because it sounds to me like he's saying the stuff is sealed because they don't want the fact that the investigators fucked it up to be put out there?
That's a pure way of looking at that. I have a suspicion that there may be some issues with the evidence that they're trying to attack on the defense side, and there may be some things that might be either embarrassing or inappropriate, or there's been some tampering, or there's a chain of custody issue. And what the defense is probably trying to do, now I haven't looked at the pleadings and I don't have access, but when the defense tries to unseal and say, no, we need to let the entire public see what happened, that's usually a situation in which the defense is trying to gain some ground by suggesting that maybe what the law enforcement and the police did in this case may have been inappropriate in some way. And that's really a lot of what I think is going on. It's my
ding, 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 ding. I had to make sure I heard him right. Because ding, 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 ding. I'm glad. Now let's watch Vinny, because I bet you Vinny. Because look, we've seen Vinny snap on his guest for not agreeing with him when it comes to this case. So let's see what happens. You have somebody sitting there telling you, I think it's being sealed because they don't want people to see the shoddy bull-s that was going on, because then public opinion's going to be like, no. Ooh, let's hear what Vinny has to say.
personal opinion. I don't have access to the pleadings, but
you know why? Because they're sealed. They're
that's
sealed.
Right.
They're sealed. All right.
And I'm not a fan of sealing things, and I agree wholeheartedly with David. If I'm understanding him correctly, and that if we're going to have a public trial, let's have a public trial, and let's have an entire public trial. But again, when there's sensitive information that's dealing with people's lives, and there's things that could be either an embarrassment or cause some anguish towards someone, or bring some attention to someone who's not a principal in this case, I understand limited use of the sealing option.
Gotcha. All right. John and Dave are both going to stick around. We're going to need your help again. But that motion mentioned this IGG. Coming up next, what is IGG?
CC Moore. CC Moore. CC Moore. All right. Let's skip Vinny's little K-bar presentation.
Protective order. The product of the genealogy conducted by the FBI was family tree that contained the name, birth date, and death date, if applicable, of hundreds of relatives, as well as their familial connections between each other and the suspect, the accused killer. The FBI then sent to local law enforcement, sent a tip to investigate the defendant. The IGG
That's right, just the tip, Vinny.
Process pointed law enforcement toward the defendant, but it did not provide law enforcement with substantive evidence of guilt. After identification of the defendant, law enforcement recovered trash from the home of the defendant's parents, and the ISP laboratory did STR DNA analysis of items from the trash for comparison to the unknown crime scene DNA. That's what I said, from the snap of the sheath. That comparison indicated the DNA found on the trash belonged to the biological father of the individual who left the DNA on the K-bar knife sheath. Okay, there's a lot there. I don't know how easy or difficult it was to follow. That's why we do the show.
Yeah, he broke it down tonight. Holy shit, there's so much knowledge in that 16 minutes and 23 seconds already. He told you, from what he's noticed, that juries look at the evidence. He broke that earlier. Now he showed you the sheath, the button snap. Boy, Vinny, breaking it down, brother. No wonder you ain't got the tie on, because the beast is out tonight, isn't it?
Brings us to our next question, because they mentioned the IGG process pointed law enforcement towards the defendant. So here's my question. What is IGG?
Camera 4, Vinny.
We got to know what IGG is before we can understand
Camera 4, Vinny. Vinny,
it
camera
pushed
4.
them towards the defendant. Joining me, former homicide detective, host
Camera 4.
of the
There
interview
we go.
room with Chris McDonough. It's Chris McDonough, and top genetic genealogist who's done groundbreaking work in the field that's led to the first convictions and exonerations based on it. CC Moore is with us, and that's important. DNA goes both ways on this. It can exonerate you, and it can put you behind bars. All right, CC, let me begin with you. Simple question, or is it? What is IGG?
IGG stands for Investigative Genetic Genealogy. We sometimes hear it also referred to as Forensic Investigative Genetic Genealogy. And what it is taking DNA from a crime scene or an unidentified human remain sample and reverse engineering their identity from the distant relatives with whom they share DNA in the genetic genealogy databases. And so what we're generally working with are very distant relatives to these unknown suspects. So none of these tend to have close relatives. It's very rare. We're working with second, third, fourth, fifth cousins and beyond. We are looking for commonalities, overlaps, and ultimately common ancestors. So we can piece together their family tree, this unknown suspect's family tree, bit by bit, based on who they're sharing DNA with, then build forward in time and try to find candidates who descend from those common ancestors who were in the right place at the right time, the right gender, the right age range to potentially be the suspect.
Okay, so just for reviewing, you get the DNA from here, you don't know who it is. So now we go and we do this IGG. You say you're looking for ancestors. You're looking where for these ancestors?
So we have to analyze that DNA evidence from scratch because it's very different than what the crime labs do. We have to create what's called a SNP profile, which is different than the STR genetic markers.
They have to create.
So we have to analyze that DNA evidence from scratch because it's very different than what the crime labs do. We have to create what's called a SNP profile, which is different than the STR genetic markers that they use for evidence in court that the crime labs create. This profile will have hundreds of thousands of genetic markers of this unknown suspect across his genome, and it is then uploaded into genetic genealogy databases. However, even though over 50 million people have taken direct-to-consumer DNA tests, we are barred from using the largest databases. So we are limited to the databases that are willing to work with law enforcement. And those are the two smallest ones, GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA. So that genetic profile is uploaded there and compared against a couple million people who have opted into allowing law enforcement to compare. However, there is one more database that is vulnerable to law enforcement use, although their terms of service bar it. And that is a company called MyHeritage that is based in Israel. So that one has been used in some cases.
Whoa.
And I suspect that may be one of the things that the prosecution would rather stay private. It's been ruled to not be illegal in other cases. It is against terms of service, though, and it might look bad to the public. So,
whoa, that's interesting. What? That's interesting. So there was a case. Where they actually went through the back door. Some company in Israel? And that, because right now you see what she's saying when it comes to Ann Taylor and what we went through earlier in the show tonight. You see what she's saying about what Ann Taylor's saying. But when it comes to this, I wonder if the prosecution is going to use this as an example. Maybe that's why that's crazy. There's one company that has the opt-out, but they're allowed to have law enforcement come in without their permission.
Our database that is vulnerable to law enforcement use, although their terms of service bar.
Yeah, we've been here from the beginning. Thank you, Rolo. We've actually been here from before the crime took place, but thank you.
And that is a company called MyHeritage that is based in Israel. So that one has been used in some cases. And I suspect that may be one of the things that the prosecution would rather stay private. It's been ruled to not be illegal in other cases. It is against terms of service, though, and it might look bad to the public. So it.
And honestly, you come in here and you drop a comment, self-promotion right off the bat. Go hang out with another crowd. Thank you. Do some research too. I know you've been around. You've seen the kind of stuff that we've done. We've been there from the beginning. To sit there and say that please go self-promote somewhere else.
They might
listen. You remember Dot, Rolo? Do you remember Dot? You remember Dot? I remember when Dot was on panel. And I wasn't into the Dot bullshit. And dude, you gave her your personal information on panel, bro. Or him, whichever. Dude, that's what I'm like. This dude is so unaware, yo. I'm sitting there, Dot's on panel. I'm like, I can't believe that this is bullshit. And I will help you, Dot. I will help you. Dude. Oh, boy. Yeah, I don't forget, bro. Go hang out somewhere else. Thank you.
Might be wanting to unseal that to get public opinion behind.
You guys, seriously, go look at the episode. It used to be members only. It's open for... Because people still get sucked into that shit. You can literally just look up EvilleCJ and DOT, and you will see the live that pops up, and you will see this dude literally like, and this is after all of the, this is after it was just like way beyond believable. I will help you. What? I was sitting there. Listen, yeah, Mishy Girl remembers. Seriously, you guys, after the show's done, go watch it. It's hilarious. I'm sitting there going, like, as the host, right? I'm sitting there going, I can't believe this dude is doing this on panel. We're supposed to learn about the new FBI update. Okay.
All right, Chris McDonough. That's it. I'm starting to really understand this, but this is important stuff. This is a way to find people that.
Mishy Girl, I do the 150, you know? I do the 150. It became 0 when all of a sudden, hey guys, check out my new uploaded video. Dude, do I come in your house and have shit on my shoes and just walk right in? No, I take my shoes off before I come inside, you know? Go ahead, walk through my house with dog shit on your shoes, even though you didn't ask me. At least ask me. CJ, can I walk through your house with dog shit on my shoes? At least ask me. Yes, go ahead and walk through my house with dog shit on your shoes, right? At least ask me.
That you may not otherwise be able to find.
Yeah, absolutely, Vinny. And I think what the defense
go call Dot
is doing here is looking for that aha moment, right? I mean, if it is, let's say it is from MyHeritage database, they're looking for that impact into the public, court of public opinion to say, hey, wait a minute, the cops did something wrong here. Whereas if you do a comparison, it's no different than, pulling off a bunch of photographs and put them into a photographic lineup and showing a witness. Because at some point you have to get a warrant to substantiate and tie that suspect together to that DNA.
So Cece, the use of this genealogy of whether you're exonerating or, looking for a killer on a hot case, an unsolved case like this, it's the way they describe it is pointing it in the direction. We only have like 20 seconds here, but you usually can't identify the actual person, but you find people that are somehow in their sphere.
Well, actually, pretty often we can point at one person or an immediate family, a set of siblings. It just depends how much data you have to work with. However, it is only used as a tip. It should not be used for the basis of arrest or to compel DNA, which is what the prosecution's argument is they didn't use it as evidence to arrest him or to take this to trial.
It's a piece used to get to the next stage. Okay, CeCe Moore, thank you so much. Chris McDonough is going to stick around. Up next, folks, how did they identify the suspect?
That's too bad, because if I would have known it was just going to be that little snippet of CeCe Moore, I would have actually included the Presumption podcast in the show tonight. So I'm a little disappointed she only got that little teeny bit of airplay. Yeah, I'll find that episode for you guys and I'll drop the link. I might even rewatch that shit again. Now, like, all this stuff is flooding back into my memory and shit, you know? I need to watch that. I need to sit back and watch. You know what? Maybe we'll do a rewatch sometime. For those of you that didn't see it, and we'll just sit back and we'll talk about it on a show. We'll just go through the Dot episode. Oh, Dot, I'll save you, Dot. If anybody has the link, send it to me. I'll try and find it in the meantime. But if anybody has the Dot episode, send the link to me, please, so I can share it. Because I'm gonna try and find it while I'm paying attention to Vinny here.
I'm Vinny Politan. We continue our investigation of the Idaho student murders. It's a case that captivated the nation when there was a search for a mass killer. And now the nation is bracing for the biggest trial of 2025. Here's the story. 4 students were brutally murdered in their home near the University of Idaho. Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana were great people with amazing futures that were taken away by a monster. The man accused of this horrific crime has denied doing it and has proclaimed his innocence. There is no eyewitness, no confession, and no direct evidence. It's a prosecution built on circumstantial evidence, which prosecutors believe is compelling, including DNA found at the scene of the murder on a knife sheath. Now, both sides are battling in the courtroom as the countdown to this 2025 trial continues. Now, a lot of things are sealed in this case. There's a gag order. There's limited access to some of the courtroom proceedings. But when he was first arrested, there was the affidavit, the arrest affidavit that provided a lot of information. Did it provide all the information? I'm not sure. But it provided a lot of information. So I want to go through some key parts of this because I think they're really significant in what we are investigating tonight. We begin with a review of footage from multiple videos obtained from the King Road neighborhood showed multiple sightings of suspect vehicle 1 starting at 3:29 a.m. and ending at 4:20 a.m. After reviewing the numerous observations of suspect vehicle 1, the forensic examiner initially believed that suspect vehicle 1 was a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. Upon further review, he indicated it could also be a 2011 to 2016 Hyundai Elantra, right? So your first big piece of evidence in this case was, as we knew, were these videos, surveillance videos of this white Elantra. And that became, we're looking for the owner, the driver of this white Elantra. Then we read this on November 29th of 2022, at approximately 12:28 a.m., Washington State University police officer Daniel Tiengo queried white Elantras registered at Washington State University. Now, WSU is just a few miles away. It's across the state line, but it's close to Moscow, Idaho. As a result of that query, he located a 2015 white Elantra with a Pennsylvania license plate, LFZ 8649. The vehicle was registered to the accused killer. Okay? So when I heard that, to me, it was like, okay, so this is how they figured it all out, right? They figured it out because of this officer.
Oh, ramble. Here it is right here, you guys. Go to timestamp 5. Right here, there's a pinned comment. All right. So here's the link. Oh, you guys got to watch this. You guys have to watch this after this show tonight. And I'm even going to link the video so it'll pop up in that little dot button that you can hit to go to the next video after you watch this. I'm even going to have that take you to this video. There's the link. There's a pinned description. You can just click on the timestamp. Okay. It goes to 5:02:16. All right. And then dot pops up. All right. This was recorded July 31st, 2023. July 31st, 2023. And you'll see Dot Rumble right up there on the I'll save you, Dot. I'll save you. I'm sitting there calling. I'm like, this, you can see, watch the live chat too. You can see live chat's like, CJ ain't buying this shit. He's having a hard time trying to hide it. You see some of these fools next to me are like, oh, for real? Oh my gosh. We need to, it's like, what the, how are y'all not smelling the hot dog steak? How are y'all not smelling the hot dog steak? Right? How you not smelling it? You guys got to check it out after this. Telling you, it's classic. And I would have took it down. I was gonna take it down. I did take it down, and then there was so many people. I even had to do a show like a year or so ago because there was somebody swamp something that was like, oh, Dot is real, and I'm like, no, they're not. They're not real. Here, let me invite you onto the show so I can show you that Dot is not real. There's no way. There's no way. Even her partner was like, yeah, no, this is a lie. But that swamp person was like, no, I here it is right here. Save this link for you too. This is when I had to this is why I had to leave the video up. Because people literally believe this shit. And it's like, you gotta see the video here. This is the real conversation. This is the real conversation. Don't go off of what somebody else is saying. Go to the real conversation. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I tried telling it, like, no, she's not real. She's she, they. They're not real. If this person's story was true, it would blow up the PCA. It would totally exonerate Kohberger. It's the defense's star witness to get BK off. You wouldn't be on YouTube telling your story. You would be in some penthouse protected from the defense because you ain't talking to nobody until there's a trial because they want to make sure that your testimony can be heard. Yo, it's a crazy story. It's a crazy story. I'm gonna have to listen to this again tonight. Listen to this one too. This other version. Hell, if you want, listen to this version first of me explaining everything while you get to hear the real version. So there you go. You got both links. I think, oh man. When was this? Let me see when this episode was. January 7th of 2024. So it's been a little over a year. And I literally, it's like, no, they're not real. Her co-host, the lady at the bottom, her co-host, she was like, no, I don't buy it. It's like, come on, how do you think this person's real? Right? Contribution call out typically unique. 18 months. Dang, you knew in like 2.5 seconds. It was, I know, typically. Right? That's why I'm saying people got to watch the live chat going on, because they'll see, they're like, oh, CJ. And I'm sitting there during it going, oh my gosh, I don't want to let it be that known that I don't believe this shit. Like, I felt bad. Like, I was like, I don't want to be like, you're a fucking liar. You know, like, I'm not, listen, that's not who I am, you know? You'll see, you know, I'm questioning your shit. Like, come on. Even the shows that I'm talking about it, it's like, come on. Are you really going to believe this stuff? I got to watch this. Hold on. Let me save it I'm going to save them to my playlist. I'll drop both links again. And you know what? I'll put both links maybe in a pinned comment or something. Because people need to watch these shows, man. They're crazy. Thank you, typically. It's got to make sense. It's crazy, though. The dudes on there. Oh, no. It's like, what are you doing? What? Come on now. All right, let's skip ahead to past Vinny's rambling. How did they identify their suspect? All right, let's skip ahead. Oh, we got more camera 4 Vinny coming up.
This brings me to the next question in my investigation, which is an important one.
Camera 4.
And I think we've really got to zero in on it.
Camera 4.
How did they identify their suspect?
Camera 4.
How did they land on him?
Vinny.
What was the piece of information that led them to him? Or did they put information together to get him? How exactly did they do it? Do we have a clear idea of that? Joining us, Chris McDonough, the interview room with Chris McDonough, and retired FBI special agent.
And contribution, I apologize, typically. Contribution call out. Thank you again. I appreciate it. Typically has been one of the OGs. We're going to speed it up a little bit. Oh, I can't wait to watch this Dodd episode after we're done tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And I got to watch the one where hold on, let me see what so that one was 3 hours and 15 minutes. Yeah. Let me save this to a playlist. We're gonna have to rewatch this sometime. And here's the link again if you didn't have it. Here's the link again if you didn't get it. Click on it. It has the original conversation in the description or in the pinned comment. I can't remember, but you do have the link to the original in that link. Definitely check it out. Definitely. I'll save you, Dot.
An expert in criminal investigations, Bobby Chacon. Great to see you both. Now, I want to read a couple of excerpts from a Slate article entitled "How Police Actually Cracked the Idaho Killings Case." According to a law enforcement source familiar with the investigation with whom I spoke, a key reason police focused on this suspect as a likely suspect has to do with something that is never mentioned in the 18-page affidavit that I've just been reading from. Forensic genealogy. It was only after investigators utilized a technique reliant on genealogy databases to determine who'd left DNA on a tan leather knife sheath, that police requested a search warrant for the accused killer's phone records, according to this source. Up until that point, in late December, he hadn't stood out among all the other Elantra owners, the source said, something that is reinforced by a close, informed reading of the affidavit. So,
yeah, like you can go, we did our deep dives on all the statements and press conferences from law enforcement all the way up until December 16th and 17th. They're still telling you 2011 to 2013. He was not. What's up, Brazilian? He was not on their freaking radar. If he was on their radar, they would have been telling you 2015 in December. Or I should say the first 2/3 of December. The last third of December, that's when it became Brian.
Bobby Chacon, I'll begin with you. It seems to me that when we all read that affidavit, there was something to read between the lines. And now this has become a big issue in court, which is about this IGG investigative genealogy that is a part of the case. Is that really the key to how they were able to narrow things down and get it to the point where they could go to a judge and get a warrant so they could get his phone records and continue their investigation to identify him as the suspect here?
Yeah, Vinny, I know that IGG is the big sexy thing now and everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon. And I actually am maybe I'm the minority here, but I don't think it is in this case. I think it helped. I think it was I don't think it was the linchpin. I think they were onto this guy. Remember what's not said in this affidavit, which the police didn't know at this time, is they had already interviewed an eyewitness that saw the suspect leaving the house. They kept that really under wraps. They kept her description of this guy and how tall he was, the bushy eyebrows, all of that was kept really under wraps for a good reason.
For a good reason, yeah, because one of the statements said 5'8", the other one said 5'10" or taller. There's a difference when you're 5'10" and you're the witness. They're either taller than you or shorter than you, not both. Yeah, there was a good reason. Maybe they didn't catch that in the court hearing, huh?
So they were doing really good police work, narrowing it down, get your pool of suspects, Elantra owners in the area, phone records. They were doing the standard stuff that you do in every case. Now, IGG does help. It helps narrow down your suspect pool. It doesn't give you the suspect. It helps you narrow it down, and then it helps you get to the suspect that then you can obtain a DNA. They did a cheek swab eventually and compare it directly to the knife sheath, and then you have the what I call the 100% match, 5.3 cotillion or whatever it is, octillion. So I think that they did the normal police work. You read the affidavit. I think they would have gotten the warrants without IGG in this case. They would have gotten the warrants for his phone and things like that. I think that it was a big help, but I don't think this case doesn't get made without IGG.
Chris McDonough, so they don't mention the IGG, but it's clearly a part of the case because now there's a motion related to the IGG. A lot of things have been sealed. Like we said, defense wants to unseal it. So do you think they could have gotten to this suspect without the IGG? Was there still enough there? Did this just make it quicker? Because there's a couple steps in the process, right? The IGG gets them quicker to the suspect, but there's still not enough for an arrest. They go to the house in Pennsylvania. They get the father's DNA from the garbage. Still not, it's enough for an arrest. But then it's not the positive match until they swab him. So it's like a 3-step process with the DNA here. What are your thoughts on the role of the IGG, and was that the linchpin? Bobby doesn't think so. What do you think?
I agree with Bobby. I mean, and just to dovetail into the thought process there, remember when this thing first goes down, there is a massive amount of resources on the ground. And so in any investigation like this, you're going to have a team inside the house. You're going to have a team outside of the house doing like a canvassing, trying to pull video, et cetera, and interviewing witnesses in relationship to neighbors. Did they hear or see, anything like that? So we don't know just yet how much amount of information they had from the get-go. And when the IGG information shows up, that's kind of like a bonus, right? I mean, that officer that went back and started querying the cars through, the university there and came up with a similar Elantra, well, then you can just pick up the phone and call the FBI. And right away, if you have them on the scene, you got a direct source going there, and that information can accelerate pretty rapidly.
All right, so let's talk about this for a second, Bobby, because the way they're using the IGG is it's not evidence, it's not something that should be used as probable cause for an arrest, but they treat it as a tip. And I've seen people talk about it almost like an anonymous tip, and law enforcement doesn't like to mention it. And I think that's what happened in this case, because it's not in the arrest affidavit. There's no mention of it, and you don't have to mention everything there, but it seems
they just took the tip. If anybody, what does K-bar stand for? Let me know in chat if you know what it means. Kill a something. Let me know if you know what it means in chat. What does K-bar stand for? What is it shortened for? Let me know in chat.
seems like it played a role here, yet law enforcement doesn't necessarily want that to be part of the record. Why is that, Bobby? Why do you think that is?
You know, I don't know why it is. My guess is, and just to be clear, IGG has a really big role in some cases, and some cases it's the only thing that leads you to the suspect. So it's very valuable. This is a new area of DNA investigations that's very valuable. I just happen to think in this particular case, they had the Elantra, they had a Washington State University student registered to a white Elantra. So they were on their way to identifying him. In this case, IGG was kind of a very big help, but it wasn't everything in this case. In some cases, it is. I think they don't want to mention the IGG stuff because remember where it all comes from. It comes from a voluntary database that, CC mentioned earlier that, not all people dedicate their DNA to this. And the biggest services, like the one I'm in, one of the bigger ones, doesn't allow law enforcement to query it. So, when you're dealing, you don't want to make people hesitant to give their DNA into these programs and into these companies because they sensationalize it and they say, oh, the law enforcement's looking at all these people in these databases, and then you get, as a business owner, you wouldn't want that to happen either. You don't want people hesitant to put in, and so I think like it's a quiet, kind of tool they pull off the shelf that they can use, find the suspect and then put it back, and then not tell anybody. Not that they don't tell anybody, they just don't want it like all that publicized because they don't want people pulling back from participating in that.
Yeah, the next show I want to do is Bobby Chacon. I want to know where your ancestry goes to because I think that would be really interesting. Chris McDonough, thanks for all your help. Bobby Chacon, thank you as well. Great to see you both. Still to come, what happens if the defense is successful and the DNA is suppressed? Which brings us to the next question in our investigation, which is, what happens if the DNA is suppressed? What if the defense is successful in one of their motions to keep the DNA from being a part of the trial, to keep the DNA away from the jury? Join me, two guys who know Idaho law very, very, very well. The attorney represented Chad Daybell, John Pryor, and trial lawyer and former Idaho Attorney General Dave Leroy. All right, John, what's your analysis of this case if, in fact, the DNA is gone and they can't connect the suspected killer to this knife sheath that was found at the crime scene?
Well, I think, Vinny, what they're talking about is the IGG evidence and excluding that in terms of the databases that they used. And in that case, that's just that evidence is really evidence of exclusion. What they're trying to do is pull away as many people as they can from that to do that. If it's excluded, it's a part. I mean, the defense is doing it because it's just one more piece that they can not have to worry about or address that might implicate their client. If we're talking about the blood evidence, I think that's huge. I think it's a huge issue if the blood evidence is excluded.
So, Dave Leroy, if you can't connect the defendant to something that was found at the crime scene in this case, which was the knife sheath, if you can't make that direct connection, if you are somehow denied the ability to do that by some of this pretrial litigation, a lot of which is under seal, how strong is this prosecution case? How difficult will it be to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt?
Well, this case is still provable beyond a reasonable doubt, but the most significant evidence in the case is the knife sheath, which was not only evident with the DNA, but it was found under the body of one of the victims and under a cover that was adjacent to her body. Therefore, it was probably left when it was covered up at the scene. To tie any individual to that scene and that particular knife sheath is the most singular significant piece of evidence in the case. If that should be lost, and I don't think it will be at the trial level, if that should be lost, then it still is a circumstantial case that I think the prosecutor can prove. But the whole effort here, I believe, is not to win a trial, but it's to create a brand new constitutional right to a privacy protection under the U.S. Constitution for the DNA of third parties, including relatives. If you can argue that you somehow have a privacy interest in that, and you can therefore independently suppress that kind of evidence at a trial, then they've created a whole new area of constitutional law. That's where we're headed with these arguments. I don't expect an Idaho judge at the trial level to buy into that. I wouldn't expect the Idaho Supreme Court to find that to be valid, but it will be presented one day, I presume, should a conviction be had in this case, to the United States Supreme Court. That's where they want to head. This case is capable of conviction without the evidence, but that's the reason we're having such a fight about the knife sheet. It weakens the prosecution case if it's lost, and if it stays in, it creates an argument against the United States Constitution.
So what would be the impact here, John, potentially, if the defense is right in their assertion that the data that they accessed, they're not entitled to access? They somehow.
Well, I agree with David. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, if they were able to access something that they weren't supposed to access, so what's the impact of that? Is there an impact on this case?
Well, the impact is that evidence, if they used an inappropriate or were inappropriate in accessing a website, the evidence is excluded. I agree with David. This is still a circumstantial case, but obviously if DNA or IGG evidence is excluded because inappropriate actions by law enforcement or others, it makes their case a little harder. And I agree with David as well that it also sets it up not only for an appealable issue that could go on for years, but also setting up the possibility that a higher court would at some point adopt a situation where you're invading people's privacy. And I wholeheartedly agree with what David's assertion there.
So looking at how this case was investigated, and I think I understand it, despite all the things that are sealed. And what the assertion is that they used all these different pieces, but one of the pieces they used to get to the next step, to get the next piece, was this IGG. So if the IGG gets thrown out, do we get into the world, and I'm going to say it, and I know it's from law school, but it's for real. We only have a couple seconds here. Is this, and just a yes or no, is it potentially fruit of the poisonous tree that everything that followed must get thrown out, which could throw out the arrest, the probable cause here? Is it, just give me a yes or no, because we're really short on time. David, you first.
You get an A on the bar exam. The fruit of the poisonous tree will be exactly what the defense argues here, to throw out the DNA if there is a constitutional right of privacy in someone else's DNA.
All right, we're out of time for tonight, but you know I'm going to be calling on both of you throughout this case. So don't make any plans for late summer, early fall. John?
Yeah, he's coming out like this. I want to thank you all for hanging out tonight. Like I promised, Blue Tie, we're gonna go ahead and yes, sir, we will drop the mic for you. I'm gonna go ahead and end the show tonight with this mic drop here. And she even says it too. I want to say thank you all for hanging out. Appreciate you very much. Don't miss our show coming up on Thursday, where we have Yoli Yo Law joining us, and we're going to be going, I got so much to say, and I'm sure she does too. When it comes to these court hearings, we're going to be doing timestamps and all that. So if there's something interesting that you want us to bring up, because listen, they were long court hearings. We have so much to talk about. Maybe we might have missed something. Send me an email. Give me a timestamp. What court hearing? What timestamp? What you thought was interesting, and maybe we'll include it. If we don't have it already, we're not perfect. We might not have everything. If there's something you think that was important, let me know. Drop it in a comment, or send me a message on any of the platforms you see up above on the screen, or Gmail, EvilleCJ@gmail.com. Thank you all for being here. Please hit the like if you haven't yet. If you're not subscribed, please consider doing so. We'll be back tomorrow night with Micah Miller, Thursday night with more Idaho 4, and then Friday night we got a special with Narc Divers, and we're going to be digging into this Joe Exotic conspiracy. Can't wait to get into that. That's going to include a lot of stuff. Transcript of the court hearing, audio confessions, so much more. Thank you all. Blue Tie, you got the mic, bro. You got the last word tonight. Thank you all. Love you guys.
Speaking of the expectation of privacy, Joe Tamburino, I know you've got a lot to say about this. Apparently, the court thought Mr. Kohberger deserved some privacy. Yesterday, the judge had closed off part of the hearing from the public. Our courties were very disappointed, and then allowed the public to see the other half of the hearing, making everybody wonder, well, why was it we couldn't see all of it? Curious what you think about that ruling.
Yeah, tell us.
What I think is it's a wrong ruling, and media organizations should sue, because you can't just close a courtroom. I mean, federal law, state law, but mostly federal law under the First Amendment, we have open courtrooms. Yes, in certain juvenile cases and things like that. But 99% of the time, you just can't shut the courtroom doors. And the judge did it under this theory of, well, we're going to be talking about evidence that if it gets out there, it could taint the jury, a future jury. Well, if that's the reasoning, then you would basically close every criminal hearing before trial, because of course you're going to hear evidence that might not be admissible at trial, and some potential juror could hear it. That's why you go through jury selection. You try to weed out those people. So closing the courtroom is ridiculous. Additionally, it violates Idaho's victim laws. A victim has rights. A victim families have rights in Idaho, as with all states. And 19.5306 under Idaho law says that victims can be in all court proceedings. Actually, in Idaho, they say they could be even in juvenile proceedings. So we have a violation of open courtrooms under the First Amendment. We have a violation of a victim's rights. And I think, I mean, if that happened here in Minneapolis, media organizations here are very active, especially since the Chauvin trial years ago. There would be a lawsuit to get those courtroom doors open.
Boom. Drop the mic. Joe Tamburino, you deserve CLE credits too.
Possibly with the daughter.